Okay, I'm going to call our meeting back to order, and we'll continue with the 10 a.m. item that we were discussing before we broke for lunch.
Thank you, Chair Rasmussen. The applicant/appellant does have proposed changes, and I will turn the microphone over to that party so they can describe them to you.
Okay, do you want to describe that to us?
On behalf of the applicant, we would like to request a additional condition of approval be added. That condition would limit tree removal to dead, dying, diseased trees only, and allow for the clearing of understory vegetation and ladder fuels, as well as the limbing of trees as necessary to provide access along the roadways for sufficient CAL FIRE clearance.
So
Okay.
bringing that back, then we would remove the existing condition regarding tree removal, supplant it with this new proposed condition. We would also add a condition that updated site plans would be submitted prior to operation.
Okay, so would this be something that you're going to bring back in writing, or are we going to make the decision?
Because this has reduced environmental impacts, this would not cause a recirculation of the initial study, and you can feel free to proceed today.
Okay, so
Go
ahead.
mine was up first. So the removal of only diseased, dead, and dying, is that what you said? And verified by an arborist?
Go ahead.
Arborist or a registered professional forester.
Okay.
We've been working with a registered professional forester so far and would like to continue to do so.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Additionally, those trees would be identified on the site plan that would come as and stand then as the approved site plan on record going forward.
Okay, did you still have a question?
She was on the exact same page I was, as far as having some level of professional to state that these are dead and dying trees or diseased trees.
And that would be something that would come back to your attention?
It will come
That-
back to our department and be part of the file for the ongoing project specifications.
Okay. All right,
And that would be enough to lead me towards being happier to say yes.
okay.
Not that I need to be happy.
All right, Supervisor Owen.
Well, I really appreciate that. I still am having issues with the water, however. The information has you at peak in October, 411,000 gallons of water for the whole project, correct? As I read it. But at 5,000 plants, at 6 gallons per day, which would be the most because they're smaller plants, so I had to reduce that. Still comes to 30,000 gallons per acre per month. Times the 3 would be 90,000 gallons per day. I mean, that was per day, I'm sorry. Which comes out to over 2.5 million gallons per month. So I'm just not sure on the numbers, and I've ran them a few times, and I'm just concerned about the water.
We could agree to disagree, but the 6 gallons per minute per plant is extremely high and not realistic for this situation,
Oh, 6 gallons, no, it was per plant per day, I'm sorry.
which is still high
Six,
for such small plants, yes.
during maturity? That's, because I thought that's what you had stated earlier, that it was 6.
I did
and
it
not-
my computer's sitting in the car because it was locked, I got locked out. I don't do it by gallons per day. I do it by square foot of canopy, and it's 3,600 something square foot of canopy. So I treat all the canopy the same. So it's based on canopy, and it's throughout the entire season. And I'd have to divide it by the canopy and convert to gallons per day.
Yeah, and I don't have a grasp on how you're doing that, in all honesty. You know, and so I probably fed into my AI search, since I'm not familiar with cannabis, the wrong information I may have. That's easy enough. I don't know how to do it any other way than by plant, and that's why I was asking that information, how many plants you were.
And the reason I do it by gallons per day per canopy is to avoid the conversation about the number of plants, because it takes care of all of it. whether they're, treat them the same, whether they're small, this is the most conservative, high number based on square foot of canopy. And the numbers in the report are, I don't have that table in front, but that is the 4.9 acre feet per year, and then he'll pull up the gallon one. That one. Yeah, and then the table shows that the peak use, I have it in
October,
October, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
at 411,000 gallons per month. And I was coming out with a significantly different, because I was going by plant, because I don't know how else to measure the water.
What's in that table and then the date, I apologize. It's what is in that table, and then the daily amounts are in the hydrology report. There is an average daily and a peak daily, which would occur at the highest part of the season.
So in the study, it references 500 plants with diameter of 10 feet per plant, which it's not quite 100 square feet per plant. I have to do pi, but anyways, these plants are going to be much smaller. Like each individual plant is going to occupy 2 to 6 square feet, as opposed to close to 100 square feet. Not 2, 4 to.
And I had read that, but I started getting numbers gerbled, and that's why I thought they were large plants, I think.
And so the calculation comes out to the same amount of water usage if you use 500 plants that each have, roughly or a little less than 10 square or 100 square feet per plant, versus 5,000 plants with less than 10 square feet per plant. It's just a difference between 500 very large plants and 5,000 very small plants. One of the reasons you want, as an operator, would want very small plants is because very large plants take a lot of infrastructure and effort to maintain, whereas smaller plants, they support themselves. Larger plants, you need to provide some kind of support structure for them. Trellis is what's commonly used, but small plants, they can support themselves, don't need that. But they occupy a much smaller area. And so, you couldn't fit 5,000 100 square foot plants within an acre. That would be, over an acre.
Right, okay.
All right, Vice Chair?
But you're also using hoop houses too, right? Wasn't there a conversation about that in that?
Hoop houses would possibly be hoop houses would possibly be allowable under the temporary hoop house ordinance.
Okay.
I imagine that Forrest can speak to me that there would be a portion, especially now that we have this tree preservation aspect of it. Prior, nearly all of the canopy would have been in hoop houses, but now we're going to have to manage around the trees. And so there will be areas where hoop houses are going to be used, and there will be temporary hoop houses,
Right.
and then areas where they're just not feasible due to the tree preservation.
Okay. That just reduced the amount of water needed. Okay.
So then also, if this were to get approved, how are we going to deal with the easement question on the confirmation?
We would still add that condition of approval requiring a legal recorded easement.
Okay, so that
The
would,
contesting of that easement then would be left to the permittee and the property owners.
okay, and they would have to show or provide that before they could operate under use?
It would be a requirement of operation, yes.
Okay, all right. I don't have any other questions at this point.
Can we-
Let me check in with county council. Should probably public comment regarding the updated plan. So I will open it up to the public, but it's, I'm going to say this is only limited to what's been introduced since we came back from lunch, which is the modification of the application to remove the cutting of the trees and only propose to cut dead and dying trees or trees, as I heard, that were related to access. And that would be an updated plan. So, and I'll give folks, can I limit the time on that? So 1 minute for comment, if anybody has comment to this limited update. Go ahead, sir. And you'll have 1 minute.
I'm going to be very brief. I will just say that regardless of the hydrolysis qualification, I will submit that we have two equally competent, professional, well-respected hydrologists who highly contest her conclusions, and that should be taken into much more serious consideration. I know you see what is trying to happen just to try and go back and forth. Here, I think we need to have a complete airing of these issues, because they're serious issues, particularly given the drought progressions. We're not in a static circumstance. We're looking at much more significant and serious water issues coming down the pike.
Thank you.
I'm very disappointed about how casually you seem to be taking water supply in Lake County. I'm one who had a dried up well, and you have to take into account, it's your responsibility to take into account the citizens of Lake County have access to clean water. We shouldn't have to worry about wells drying up, wells becoming full of sediments that are expensive filtration. So don't forget that.
Thank you.
Contrary to what Mr. Ellie said, title companies do not insure easements. I've been in real estate for 45 years, and that does not happen. There are exemptions to their coverage. So they're not covered, and it's a totally invalid easement because it was granted by somebody who didn't own the property. And this will be tied up for years in court if it needs to be. And I was going to say something else, and and then the other thing is that the whole cultivation exclusion was just glossed over. It's in an exclusion zone. Can't be approved.
Thank you.
Hello again, Alex Powell. I think I want to hone in on the water again. Not just the usage of water, which to me is already worrisome, but the location of everything. The well is right there on the creek bed, Ziegler Canyon Creek, which goes through our sanctuary, but also goes all the way to Cache Creek and to the lake. The well position on the map that was submitted is not accurate. It's actually next to the road, which again is on the creek headlands. So there's just, again, as everyone's saying, I just feel like it needs a review to verify the information right above the property. Now, this is a property that's just over the hill into the valley where the sanctuary is and all the neighborhood is. So this is coming in to that valley now, and it's imposing. And that's where they're tapping the well. So it is going to affect everything on that side of the hill. It just will. This is a serious consideration with the water. And I agree with everyone else. Please consider.
Thank you. Next in the room.
Good afternoon, Chair. Tom Lasik. I know that since lunch they're considering, or since last public comment, they're considering making as a condition approval language around the easement. My understanding of Article 27, and I'm just going to ask this question. If the county is not determining whether the recorded easement authorizes proposed commercial cannabis use and the required inspection, emergency, and delivery access, then how is the county making the finding that required by Article 27 that the site has the required access? It seems like we're punting and hoping that somehow that's done outside the idea that, oh, this is a civil matter. The way the ordinance is actually written, this has to be determined prior to approval. It's part of road suitability. If you can't demonstrate the road is suitable, then you're not supposed to be granting a permit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Amanda Martin. Well, I am getting deja vu from the Pasta Farms hearing. Just because they are removing the tree removal from this application does not mean that it's not still detrimental to the environment. We don't know what the impact will really be on the water table. Do you really feel comfortable in approving it today without that knowledge, without those numbers? I mean, taking the trees out is a good concession. Thank you for that. But there will still be impact to the total environment, especially the water. I mean, I feel like I should just stand here and pause so we can all really take that in. The water, do we feel comfortable with that? Do you feel like you can approve this today based on what you know? I don't feel comfortable at all as a citizen. Really, do you? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Lynn Wagner, Lake County resident for 50 years. I find it humorous and rather absurd that the applicant is talking about only using water for little plants, because little plants grow to become big plants. That's the whole purpose of planting something. You grow it and cultivate it so that it becomes larger, and then you have something substantial and worthy to cultivate and harvest and sell. So the argument of, well, they're just little plants, that seems absurd to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Supervisors, Margot Kambara. Again, the water. It's wonderful that the applicant has seen to modify the tree removal plan. It's great. We still have the problem of water availability. So as your board is filling in to make that decision that could not be officially made by the Planning Commission, you are weighing whether the mitigated negative declaration requirements are met under CEQA, which means has the environmental impacts, cumulative impacts of water been addressed, adequately addressed? We have evidence provided by the neighbors offering comment that wells have already gone dry. We're talking about water usage that will increase in that area. What, 1 million gallons? 1 million gallons, period. You wonder.
Thank you.
So anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please reconsider.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room? And is there anyone online, Johanna? Sterling?
Yeah, hi. So with this easement, I'm through litigation on one of my properties with easement, and I think the county should really step back and maybe ask county council. Easements is a civil matter. It's not a board of supervisors. It's not CDD. It's nothing to do with planning. That's all a civil matter. And if they went and bought their property and it is stated through a title company, because a title company does know where easements are at because they have to research properties in order to notarize properties correctly. So if there is an easement on that property and it is shown in the real estate paperwork, that is enough proof. Now, if you guys want to contest that easement, then it has to be brought to the courts of California in a civil case to dispute that easement. And until people can come to this board and prove that that easement is not there and it was not given by the property owner, then as
Thank you, Sterling.
right now, that is, thank you.
Sterling, that was the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With all the discussion, first I'd like to say to Mr. Ellie, thank you for, reducing the tree removal to ones that are died, diseased. And then for the board, maybe consider continuing this discussion and request CDD to provide your board with the well reports for all the projects within a 3-mile radius. That might help you guys to get a better understanding of what's going on with the water in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Donna Makowitz, you'll have 1 minute.
Good afternoon. Thank you, board. This is Donna Makowitz, Red Bud Audubon. The modification for the trees is a small concession, but there are huge cumulative impacts that need to be addressed, especially the water, and also a complete new recent biological assessment is needed. Just having a forester or arborist reviewing the trees is simply not enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Was there anyone else? I'm going to close that public comment and bring it back to the board for any further questions, comments, or, go ahead, Supervisor.
I guess just to, sorry to belabor the point on the easement, but it has the Lake County Recorder's stamp on there, which means that it is in our records that it comes from. Am I incorrect on my statement?
That is correct.
So to me, that goes through a vetting process before it gets recorded. And when any paperwork on easements are recorded, those go with the properties, they do not go with the individuals. And so if somehow or another somebody defrauded us in the sense that they lied and gave us all the right information for us to accidentally record a document, we have to trust, and we can't go through a deep dive with every single document that we have that's been recorded. And this is where it becomes a civil matter. We have an official document from the recorder's office. It states the correct properties. That is the reason we're having the conversation, is because, yes, part of our rules and regulations is there has to be road access. Everything we see with official paperwork says there is road access. If there's further dispute, that's not here nor there. That's in civil court. So I just wanted to at least make those statements, see if county council agrees with that. I know I'm getting a nod of agreeance from a CDD director as well as a nod from county council. I'll let you at least say it verbally rather than just a nod.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that is generally correct. Your board sitting in as a quasi judicial body can rely on recorded easements as well as other documents as evidence in making your decision. Your board is not in a position to issue what would normally be a court decision of a final legal adjudication of private property rights on title disputes.
Okay. I have a follow-up question, County Council. So based on this further discussion about that, would that be appropriate for this board not to have any kind of a directive about what has to be done with that easement, or is that still okay?
That would be fine. I believe Director Turner has earlier on, prior to trailing this matter, has proposed some language to be added, I believe, on the conditions, on the permit conditions as it relates to the easement. I believe that revision or addition would be located in condition 826. I believe Director Turner put that on the record. So that could be part of your board's decision and part of your board's findings. Any revisions or modifications to the conditions of the permit that was initially presented to your board, if your board decides to agree to those revisions, would result in a granting of the appeal in part subject to those changes. And I could walk your board through the motion language when your board is ready.
Okay. Go ahead.
What are we asking in that condition of approval? Prove what we've already gotten for proof? Like, I almost feel like it's unnecessary for us to show proof when we have proof in our attachments, we have proof from the recorder's office. What else are we wanting?
Well, that's why I was trying to clarify if it was actually, public comments closed, sir. Thank you. To clarify if it would even be appropriate or not something that we shouldn't dive into.
The proposed condition for an easement pretty much just paraphrases what is already in Article 27, but the purpose of adding it specifically as a condition would be to offer the board a level of comfort regarding access.
I think it doesn't do anything other than ask what we've already asked in the first place and that we've provided.
Yeah, that's certainly where it appears now, because when I commented earlier, that's what I said, everything appears legal from the county document, but I think we're going to be ready for action.
Chair,
yes.
if we could, just for clarification for the minutes purposes, if we could list to you and confirm the amendments that would be added to this project.
Yes, that's a good idea.
We have them formulated.
Okay.
Are we keeping this one? Okay. Hi.
Good afternoon, Trish Turner, Associate Planner, Community Development Department. So we will be adding, prior to the permit being valid, the permittee shall provide an updated site plan and related documents to the Community Development Department to reflect the changes approved by the Board of Supervisors on August 4th, 2026. That's under General, number 2. And then under General, 27 would be prior to ground disturbing activities. The permittee shall contact CAL FIRE to confirm if a timber conversion permit and/or harvest document is required. If required, the document shall be submitted to the Community Development Department.
I thought we got rid of that.
I still think that maybe just because it's timberland, they might have to, even though there's no tree removal proposed, there's just, we want them to confirm with CAL FIRE if they need a conversion or not for the dead trees.
If we can, somewhere in there, in relation to section, whatever that section is, to only getting rid of dead, dying, and diseased trees, that way they go together, and it doesn't get seen as separate. That would make me feel better.
Okay. So then the next one would be to remove, prior to any work that involves disturbing the ground or removing trees or brush, the applicant must follow the tree removal and replacement plan that they submitted to the county. This plan shows that 76 mature and healthy oak trees that are greater than 5 inches in diameter at 4.5 dBH will be removed. Each of these oak trees, yeah, it's getting removed. Yeah, it's being removed. And then it's being replaced with tree removal shall be limited to dead, dying, and diseased trees as identified by a certified arborist or certified forester. Tree trimming and vegetation clearance in accordance with CAL FIRE regulations and the county's grading ordinance is permitted. Prior to any ground disturbing activities, the applicant shall submit revised site plans to the Community Development Department identifying the dead, diseased, and dying trees for removal.
Okay. Any other?
And what was that number? I'm sorry, my internet's down. I'm trying to get stuff to on my phone. What was the number for the dead, dying trees? Condition of approval number?
Oh, the condition of approval number will be to the removal of number 5 under bio, and then the addition of number 7 under bio.
And the one with the CAL FIRE with the conversion, can we make sure it relates to?
Yeah, I can remove that from that section and put it with this one.
Okay. That would be good. I just want to make sure again that they
Perfect.
coincide together.
Yeah, so that will be under bio 7 and 8.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
Just for clarification for CDD staff, are there going to be any, will there be any proposed revisions to, you said bio section 6 or number 6, is that D6 under the conditions of permit?
Yes.
So D6 as well.
Okay.
I do apologize. What happened to B7?
B7 is the new one. It's the new one.
But there's already a B7.
Oh, the numbering will renumber.
Okay, so it just moved down.
One.
Okay, well,
We're
I just wanted to make sure that it
Yeah,
wasn't
no.
being removed. That's all.
Because we're removing the tree removal and then adding, so.
I just thought it was supplanting.
All right. Anything else, Supervisor Sabatier?
Appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, I do appreciate the modifications, but I'm not still 100% comfortable, but it does sound like there's votes here to pass it, so I think that's where we're at if anyone is going to propose actions.
I'm still can't support it because of the water issues. It's not that I don't want to be supportive of you guys, but I have an obligation to take care of the people that are already there first. And it's not that I don't want to support you. And I really appreciate the give on the trees. That was because with it being in Timberland Preserve, I thought that was really important. But the water issues, I'm still not understanding the figures. So I need to go back to school, I think, on that.
you get the recommended action?
Go ahead, Mr. County Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for your board's consideration, your board may make a motion to grant the appeal in part and modify the permit subject to the specified conditions that was outlined by CDD staff and presented to your board. And that would be appeal. This is in reference, the granting of the appeal would be in part, appeal number PL-26-357, and direct staff to prepare findings of fact, and your board's action would be based on pages 12 to 13 of the June 11, 2026 staff report, which was attached as Exhibit A. That would be the motion.
So moved.
I have a motion,
Second.
and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
That carries 3-2. Thank you. That concludes that item. And next, we're going to move on to our 1 p.m. item, which is consideration of direction on the Flashes microgrid boundary, option B4 or option B5. This being handled by our administrative office, Mr. Rickelman. And we'll give you a minute for it to clear out. Thank you. Will you be opening it up, Ben, or, okay.
Long time no see, Mr. Day. It's been a while since I've seen you camping with the Boy Scouts.
Are you going to be pulling up a presentation, Ben, or, okay.
Yes, I did. Thank you. You are right. Now I can read something. I thought it was missing here. I did.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Board. Ben Rickelman. I'm a Deputy County Administrative Officer with Lake County, and I'm joined by Michael Day with Train. So we are here again regarding the Flashes pre-development project. We came to the board a little over a month ago regarding the grant funding agreements, and since then we are waiting for PG&E to execute those grants. But Train has decided to proceed with the project, so we appreciate their diligence on the matter, and it's proceeding apace. I mentioned when we were discussing the pre-development grants, there would be a discussion regarding the boundary for the microgrid with Flashes. So there's two options. It's a policy discussion, so it's here back in front of the board. We did present this to the Ad Hoc Energy Policy Committee on July 8th. So they have a preference, but it's ultimately a board decision. So the two maps are B4 and B5. Both of them include Upper Lake and Nice, and then B4 also includes Lucerne. So B5 excludes Lucerne, and B4 includes Lucerne. So this is the larger one. B4. And so there's a financial consideration. This is a preliminary projection, but projects if we were to do the larger map, there would be roughly a 20 to 25% reduction in cash flow net of operating and capital costs compared to the smaller boundary. And then this is the more compact map, B5. So Lucerne is not in this one. So it does have stronger project economics. Train does project that both of them do pencil out. They are both viable options. One is just financially stronger than the other. And then since they are different sizes, they're going to present different island mode strength. So the more compact one, B5, is going to have more hours that the microgrid can offer, especially during the winter. And then the larger map is going to have less hours for island mode. So the poly decision is in front of the board regarding this for project design. I guess one other thing to mention, which Train has stated, is if the board were to proceed with the smaller map, B5, it wouldn't be a major lift in the future to expand to the larger option once the project's delivered, to then in the future at some point include Lucerne. And we're happy to answer any questions.
All right, I've got one. I'll ask, what's the amount of increased population or customers, or however you want to describe it, if we were to increase Lucerne? How many people does that? How many people are we talking about being able to serve additionally?
That's actually data that I don't have. I have maps of electrical service and the topology of how the electric grid sets out. I don't actually have a data set that says how many people are in bucket 1 or bucket 2. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Board members, any other questions? Go ahead, Supervisor Crandall.
Yes, I'm glad to see there's an option, because I know when we talked about it, I think last time, it's something I asked about. I talked to Ben about it, and yeah, I really would not like to exclude Lucerne. So considering we're talking about direction, I don't want to exclude them. So the other thing about it is I live in Lucerne, so I hope this doesn't like make people feel like, oh, you know, like I hope I'm not attacked for it either. So, but at the same time, a lot of my constituents, especially in Central Region Town Hall, feel like Lucerne gets the short end of the stick quite frequently. So again, even if they didn't say that, I would feel like the same way. So I'll go ahead and do that so it's not a mystery.
Vice Chair.
We did talk about this at the committee, and you know, I would like to see option B. We start more conservatively, and if it makes sense, and we can expand the capacity, but it makes it more difficult to start with such a big footprint.
Supervisor Owen?
Yeah, we did, and that was the main reason, because it would, it was cheaper to do, and it extended the amount of hours that the hospital primarily was going to have power, and that was one of the big issues for us, was the hospitals. I wanted to know, because I think I misunderstood the money end of things. What is the cost to the county after the grants are paid? The total cost to the county itself, is this 100% paid for by grants? Or does the county of Lake need to come up with money as well? Because I got confused on that.
So the grants fund the pre-development only. So it's all the analysis of the project and going through environmental. So it would go through CEQA. So you would have kind of a project prep shovel ready, as they say. So there isn't any decision direction on what would happen after that. It could be a third party, which has talked with Crane in the past with interest, and my guess is the pre-development work would de-risk the project, both just kind of financially and legally. So that's a possibility. There has been very just preliminary conversations of somehow the county is involved in ownership, but none of that has been decided our direction. The grant funding just funds pre-development.
I had ran some numbers, and that's what I thought was said, and I ran some numbers, and they were astronomical. To be honest, they were big numbers. And it was like, I'm trying to find my notes on it right now. I don't remember when our last meeting was. You said it was in July, but it was before that. That I took the numbers and ran the figures after we were given some data. And I was afraid that's what you were going to say, to be honest. So I'm just worried about, honestly, it penciling out. I wouldn't want to invest the grant and then not have it move forward, but it was something like a couple $100 million, wasn't it?
These numbers are very preliminary, and part of what we're looking to do in this feasibility study is to firm them up. But the last time we looked, it was between $150, $180 million gross. But you have to remember that there's a 40 to 50% cost share that would be paid for by the federal government, because these are under Section 48E. I'm not a tax guy, but there's the Inflation Reduction Act gives transferable tax credits and accelerated depreciation to even to local governments that do projects that include energy storage, and this falls right within it. The solar component, we're not going to make that deadline, and that tax credit is going away, but the tax credits for energy storage don't start to fade out till 2033, so we've got a longer runway there. What Ben's talking about is right. If before you were on the board several years ago, we did a solicitation, a request for interest from institutional investors. Before we had the money to do the feasibility studies, we were looking for somebody who'd pony up the money for that. And we had a dozen different financial institutions that came in saying, hey, we'd like to own this. They'd take that risk. I regularly get contacts from some of those people. This one that was successful in that solicitation, which was Brookfield Renewables, along with some of the others that were second and third place. So there's still a lot of interest in this if that's the way that the county wanted to go. If the county wanted to go on its own way and use the potential income from selling this to finance debt, that's another option. But the start of all this is doing the feasibility study to see what the cost is to build it. And that's why we're here today, because the requirements of getting the grant, of doing the microgrid are, and Ben, could you bring up the duration slide? The requirement is that the microgrid has to be able to operate for at least 24 hours in any month. Now, in this case, we start out with a full tank of water up on a hill, and then we've got all the solar panels to help add additional generation. Well, the month where the solar panels do the least generation is, of course, in December. So when you add that together, and given the projected load 5 years from now, 10 years from, it's actually 10 years from now, which is the baseline that PG&E uses, the load for the Lucerne boundary means that a full tank of gas and all the PV output would cover that for 28 hours. Interestingly, both systems in the summertime would run for greater than 4 days because we have a lot of solar. What this means, though, is that we have to put more solar on to make the Lucerne boundary work, to meet the condition, the 24-hour minimum condition. We have to put a lot more solar in. On these systems, we have enough solar to recharge the tank all but about 9 months out, or 9 months out of the year. We can recharge the tank. They're about 3 months, 4 months where we can't quite refill the tank every day with our solar panels. That's mostly in the winter. That's all in the winter time. What that means, however, is that we have more production in the summer than we need to refill the tank. So at that point, the assumption is that once the storage tank is refilled, all the rest of that energy goes back to the grid, and you just have to take whatever the market is paying right then. And it's not that much. So the more solar you put on, the lower the value of that excess generation, that generation in excess of what you need to recharge the tank is. So the larger boundary ends up having a higher capital cost. Solar panels no longer get a discount, get a rebate from the feds because of the changes in the investment tax credit law. And there's a range of options here from a relatively low cost to a high cost. There's a range of options on what the value of that energy and power will be when we bring it to the market in a couple years, assuming the project goes forward. With some of those combinations, there are situations, again, it's a whole spectrum of potential outcomes. It's a bell curve for both of those variables on both cost and revenue. There are situations where a Lucerne a project that includes Lucerne would not be able to be financially viable, and a project that was on the smaller microgrid boundary would. And so that's a marginal case. To be honest, that's a marginal case. But it's looking that because there's a higher cost to put in more solar panels, and because the additional energy that they produce during the summer makes less money because the tank's already full, you don't make as much marginal money off those, that it could get to a situation where a smaller one would work financially and a larger one wouldn't. And that's the thing. But we're not going to know until 6-9 months after we get started.
All the infrastructure is above ground, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So in the event of a fire that came through?
Well, there is actually some that's underground.
Okay.
So one of the things that we have is we have the lines that go from the generation from the Northwest Wastewater Treatment Plant that take the power to the Lucerne substation, and another set that goes overhead to the Hartley substation that covers about the north third of Lakeport, and actually all the way up to the hospital. We also have proposed to put in hardened auxiliary feeds. These hardened feeds would be dedicated what are called express feeds that would cover all of the major equipment out there. So the Northwest Wastewater Treatment Plant, the jail, the County Emergency Operations Center, the Sheriff's Dispatch, and Sutter Lakeside Hospital. This would be a parallel feed that would go to all of those locations, along with what's called an automatic transfer switch that would allow them to shift from regular PG&E power over to this. And that sort of siege mode would be able to run indefinitely.
And is that underground?
That is undergrounded, and that is hardened cables, automatic transfer switches, everything else. For those critical facilities, it is hardened.
Okay.
Supervisor Sabatier, I believe you were next.
It's good to see you, Mr. Day. I know that I've learned a lot from you about energy ever since I saw you over in Lake Tahoe during our RCRC conference.
A while back.
And obviously, what you're saying is we can't use it as a peaker during those winter months because you can't generate enough to really hold on enough, other than the battery itself is a continuous peaker because you can make energy whenever you want by releasing it downhill.
Could I clarify on that?
Please do so.
So between Hartley and Lucerne, we're looking at 120 megawatt hours of storage that can be used every day. In the middle of winter, in the depths of winter, and it's a gray day, we won't have enough energy from the PV to do a full recharge. But the system is set up to allow whoever is contracting for this to say, you know what, I've got a lot of wind in the Altamont Pass, or I've got some spare power somewhere else. So they'd be able to use grid power to top it off during the winter. So even in the depths of winter on the darkest day, some of that daily recharge would happen from solar, but then the grid operator who's contracting for the usage of that facility would be going to the grid to top it off on a daily basis. The only time that doesn't happen is if there's earthquake, mudslide, some natural catastrophe that's interrupting all the grid power coming into the North Shore to where things are really bad. And in that case, then that's where the super microgrid comes in, where it's in siege mode and it's just providing power to those critical facilities. And in that case, looking at the loads of those facilities and both the storage capability of the system and the output of the solar, it will never run out, is the projection.
I mean, there's always availability of energy. It's a matter of how you trade for
how you trade for it. And for the matter, one thing to keep in mind from a sustainability standpoint, people are going to put the cheapest power they can into there. The cheapest power on the grid is clean energy. So there's a maxim in the utility world that dollars follow carbon.
And obviously, you're always going to know more than I am when it comes to that. Where I'm going with it is, I want to say we get one shot at this, because it's taken so long, and I would love to believe that if we do one, then it'd be easier to do another, but it's just taken so long. We've been working on this for at least 5 years, 4 years, whatever it is. And I agree with Supervisor Crandall that if we're not doing this for the greatest amount of people possible while still being in the black, then I don't think we're doing our part, because we may never get that phase 2. We may never get that opportunity where now people see what this is and all these funds that would be available for this, because we're going to be an example that people are going to want to steal. And all the funds that are available federally and statewide are probably going to be highly competitive, and they're not going to come back here for a number 2. And so I think we should do the first one right. What I'm aiming for is, how do we create the peaker during the winter so that our numbers look the best? And does that mean also having a little bit of wind so that the solar panels aren't the issue? I don't know, but I'm just looking for, like, what is possible to make us look the best, but we can't say it looks good, we can make it, but we're not. And I just don't think we should be saying that to a community that potentially needs that help. Those businesses need that help. They need to be a part of that microgrid. And I would say we got to go for this one time, make it a large effort, and not what feels safe and comfortable. I feel we always try to do safe and comfortable, and sometimes it just doesn't pan out to what we actually need.
Well, if I could clarify one thing. We are, of course, right now in the feasibility study. We're seeing what is feasible. PG&E is asking us to define a microgrid boundary of what's the minimum we would cover. If we get through this process and we show that we can expand out and cover more communities, and I can take that as guidance back to our team to say, our North Star on this is to cover as many people as possible. If that's the optimization that you want us to look at, we can optimize around that. If you give us direction that you want the project to generate as much free cash flow as possible, we can optimize to that. That's what the purpose of a feasibility study is to find out whether it happens and what we are optimizing for. At the end of this, you're going to have options on whether or not to move forward. And that's when you're going to need to make a final decision. But right now, in order to facilitate the grant going forward, we have to define what the microgrid boundary is at this point for the Lucerne grant, which is its own separate standalone grant.
Well, then I would say it makes no sense to not go for the big one for the review of what would that look like versus not knowing what that would look like. So I would say we need to go with the B4. But my other part, and probably people will hate me for this, but have we talked to Sutter? Are they pitching in for getting the help? I mean, they are a separate entity. Love to help them, but at the same time, it could be a conversation that might help in the way that we negotiate a total developer agreement once this has been constructed, as to how we are all pitching into this and how it helps everybody.
We have been in contact with Sutter, although I will say that their sustainability lead recently retired, and I, to be honest, have not tied off with his replacement yet.
Supervisor Crandall.
I was also thinking about PG&E because they're named in here and all of that. And I bring this up because in Lucerne there is the Lucerne Alpine Senior Center, which during the winter is commonly where people will go to warm up when the power's out. There's no heat. So I know that there is a grid in Lucerne that PG&E has.
Big substation
there. Not just that, but then there's also another microgrid or something along those lines for emergencies. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, no, or if you've talked to them about that, because that could help bolster whatever's lacking, if that makes any sense. I don't know if you've talked to them or if we can get in touch with them about that, because that could, mitigate what we're worried about if there's going to be a draw or less power or a worry of coverage. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, so we have to make this decision right now because PG&E wants this data to know what.
Yes, PG&E is drawing up the grant award documents. Within that, we need to define what's the microgrid that we are looking to achieve.
But you said we could change that later. Is that, or Ben maybe said, somebody said.
PG&E has said that they would be open to revisions. It is easier for them from a regulatory standpoint to say that they are going from small to larger than to say that they are, sorry, we couldn't handle everybody. And there's one other part about this that's just a procedural difficulty, and part of the reason it takes 4 to 6 weeks to turn these around. PG&E, by law, is very protective of individual customer data. So we can't just salami slice along the way and say, make the boundary here, make the boundary here, make the boundary here, iteratively, or that would allow someone to suss out the individual loads of a small number of customers. That's not very good. The other part is that we are, to a certain extent, stuck with the electrical distribution grid as it grew within PG&E's territory, which is why Buckingham Point on the South Shore is connected to the Lucerne substation, believe it or not. It's just how things are. So it's very difficult for us we have to sort of say this blob or this blob. We can't really optimize it by street kind of thing. I would say that if there was a way to split the baby here, it would be to start with the smaller microgrid boundary, but to give our team intent direction to try and expand it to the maximum extent possible, and to give us directive from a policy standpoint when we're looking at design that your North Star isn't necessarily cash flow. It's trying to cover as many people as possible. And over the next year to 2 years, as we're making 1,000 little decisions along the way, that's the intent that we can organize around.
All right, well, I was a little conflicted on this because this project being built is way down the road, but my initial thought was 25% is a big risk, so I'm thinking, the safe option, but then at the same time, our job is to serve people and to try to make decisions that cover the most amount of people possible. And that's why I asked that question, because I hate to just make a decision today that doesn't allow us to cover Lucerne down the road, because I think that's that's important, so I was trying to figure out how we're not gonna do something that's gonna cut them out for a possibility.
Yeah.
So that's where I
And
was.
that's where I would say that if we start with the smaller microgrid, but you're giving us guidance that your intent is to cover as many people as possible, then everything we're doing over the next up to 2 years would be guided by that. And that is a different intent than go make us as much money as possible.
And I'd be comfortable with that. Vice Chair? Vice Chair?
Well, I mean, that's what I was saying, starting with the more conservative number, because we want to start with the smaller
Yep.
number and give ourselves a chance to explore expanding the bigger footprint through the feasibility, not after construction.
Yeah.
But it's going to be really difficult if we start big and try and contract if it doesn't work.
Okay, Supervisor Owen, did you have something else?
Yeah, I do. Let me put down, okay. Let me see. First of all, I'm a big supporter of generating power. And this is an amazing project. My biggest concern, of course, is financial and whether it's gonna pencil out. Rather than putting the cart before the horse, well, one, if we go through this and then it's not gonna pencil out and we go through the grant process, will PG&E ask to pull that money back if we do not, that's question number one, if we do not fulfill it and go through. The next question is, when you presented this to our ad hoc committee, I didn't understand that in the event of a major emergency, that we would be blocking off the rest of the power and we would be able to feed the hospitals and our emergency services for a long period of time. And that was the reason I was leaning towards the smaller footprint. Now that I know that we can do that, I'm clear on that. I don't remember that being said before. I'm for adding Lucerne in. And it was mainly because I was looking at emergency services. And I had the concerns about the above ground infrastructure as well. Next, I would like to have further discussions publicly about the financial discussions and know where we're gonna go as far as how we're gonna deal with the monies, the 150 plus million. And most importantly, is how are our constituents going to benefit? If there's a way for our people to benefit from our resources, what would that look like? So those are my questions right now. I mean, I'm all for the project. I just want to make sure it's going to pencil out. I want to see how our people can benefit, basically.
All right, any other board?
First one was the grant being clawed back.
Clawback. Of course, Supervisor Sabatier would remember this. We were initially awarded the grant on this. We got a notice of proposed award Halloween of 2024.
Oh.
3 weeks later, they came out with revised grant language that said, oh, by the way, new grant language, if you don't build it, you have to give us back all the money. And with that, we commenced what ended up being about a 1.5 year long battle. Supervisor Sabatier got the governor's office involved. Senator Thompson, or Congressman Thompson, State Senator McGuire, who was then Senate President Pro Tem, got involved. The State Building and Construction Trades Council got involved. I went and testified at the PUC. That's what held things up for a year. RCRC came in and said, hey, this is a feasibility study. You can't take it back from an economically disadvantaged community if they do the work and it turns out that there's a new three-eyed frog that nobody knew about along the way. And so that ended up changing.
Okay.
So what they said is if you're doing it in good faith and you're taking these funds and you find something that makes it infeasible, technically or financially, then the local government is not responsible to pay the funds back.
Good.
However, if it turns out that it is feasible and you have a change of leadership on the board and then they say, sorry, we just don't feel like it, then you would be on the hook for that clawback. But that was a 1.5 year fight to eliminate the clawback language. And Supervisor Sabatier deserves a lot of the credit for getting that language taken out.
But financial, if it's not going to pencil out, is that?
That's one of the methods of failure. It can
Okay.
fail technically or it can fail financially. And there's no, the clawback language was taken out. That was our biggest fight.
Okay.
You have further, Supervisor Sabatier?
You remember things I don't remember. I know Supervisor Crandall was involved in those conversations as well, I believe, but I don't remember going all the way to what you just said. But that's okay. It was a hard-fought battle, and it was a team effort, and it has taken a while. Are we allowed to say, go with B4, pencil it out, make it work? Does it have to be the exact design that you're suggesting right now where they lose 25% cash flow? Can we say make it work?
You could tell me to make it work. Where we would need to have a discussion is if it comes out that it doesn't and there's another that would, then we'd need to come back and have that discussion.
I guess my thought is, just stupid. Add 20 million gallons, make it work, right? Right. I'm just saying, like, the project itself is not being built.
You're right.
Can we tell you, make it work, fit Lucerne in this?
You can tell us that, and we will do our darndest to make that happen. And remember, we only do well if this project goes forward, right? That's why we've stuck with it for 8 years. We're pretty heavily invested in this. Ben just mentioned there was something from PG&E that said that they weren't going to be able to sign the contracts for a couple months, and therefore we wouldn't get paid. And we said, okay, we're going to go ahead and sign contracts and get going like it was there anyway. We're pretty well invested in this, and that is a rare thing for Trane to do. But we did it.
We are invested as well.
And you're invested as well. So if your direction is pull on every lever, make Lucerne work, then that's our design intent.
I would say that's wish list.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I was comfortable with how you framed it when I was asking that question, that we have the option that we know, but our intent is to try to cover the most amount of people that we can. That's where I'm at.
We do.
You said it better than I can repeat it.
What I said was that one option is to start with B5, but to give the engineering team and the feasibility study team clear direction that our goal is to expand it beyond B5 to cover a larger group, including Lucerne. That is one way to do it. The other way is to start with B4, also try to make it work, but if that doesn't work, eventually need to come back and have a difficult discussion, both politically here from a policy standpoint, as well as with PG&E, because at that point we'd have to ask them for a modification to the agreement that you're going to end up signing.
I would say you're the expert, myself. I would also say that if you can get back with us on how our people, ways that our people, residents can benefit.
Well, we do have an item on the agenda for a week from now to be part of that at the Energy
Perfect.
Policy Ad Hoc.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm still most comfortable with splitting the baby, like as you described it. So it sounds like we have direction we need to provide some specific direction.
I do apologize. Can you elaborate on a little bit of what you just said?
Sure. So there are two microgrid boundaries.
On the conversation that you said you were planning to have with the energy ad hoc?
So we did mention that when the grant agreements came up. That was when, if you remember, the unions were here. So there is going to be a discussion, a preliminary discussion on just the community development agreement with the skilled trade unions if the project were to proceed. And so that would obviously then come back to the board with further discussion.
So it's not with the energy ad hoc committee, it's a separate meeting.
It is with the energy ad hoc committee, but it's just in regards to an agreement with the trade unions if for the project. And
I don't remember that being the directive that was
Was.
given.
I thought, yeah, we talked about it when the trades were here.
No,
and
you were missing in action. You were still in New Orleans when
Oh, that,
we gave specific direction that it was policy related,
Yep,
not project related. That
absolutely.
we wanted staff to work on the projects and then bring it back to the Board of Supervisors.
Yep.
So that's why I had to ask, because I was like, I am confused about the direction.
so I did get board direction when we had flashes here to discuss that with the ad hoc committee.
For that one.
Specifically
specifically that date.
On
Yeah.
June 23rd, and then on July 14th, we kind of canceled that. It just, I
Yeah,
apologize.
I-
I'm trying to figure out where we are, and I will stop asking, but I do not feel that meets the last request and consensus from the board.
Sure. I mean, I'm fine either way. We
But
could,
you
we
can
could,
have that conversation anytime.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I recall too, the last time that the ad hoc came forward, the energy ad hoc, that we clarified. We were looking at projects, not that we were just gathering information, but what we're supposed to be working on is policy.
okay. So I think then that can come to the board instead.
Mhm.
So I will communicate and schedule something with the unions and train to have it.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Vice Chair.
But I feel like that's too much of a conversation for coming to the full board about developing a workforce program, because that's what the topic, right? I don't want to have that here. We have too many things to get through.
Sure.
That's why if the agreement of the board is not to have that done in the ad hoc committee, then it should be done with staff, but it shouldn't be done here.
That works for me.
Okay. I can work with them and bring a proposal back to the board.
Yeah, that works. I feel I want to make sure it's being worked on though, because the way, yes, we did give two different directions, but there was never an intent in my mind. I just want to make sure we weren't, that's fine if it's not the ad hoc, but that we were still working on that because that was
Yeah.
an important piece. So, all right, well, I did hear, I saw a majority direction for the option. Were you guys clear on that back when? Because we got
4.5.
off track a little bit there.
We didn't go to public
Before.
though.
Or do we have,
So,
but I haven't opened to the public yet either, so.
what I would say is, and this is me personally, this is not me speaking for Train, this is just, I'm the daddy of this, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'd say that the easiest thing for us to do, just remembering how much trouble we've had with PG&E and the PUC and moving things, is to start with the B5 boundary, which is more circumspect. It's a smaller boundary, but to have, but to then have direction to try and maximize that. That's our optimization point, and that that everything we'll be doing in the feasibility study will be trying to make that work. And we can make a lot of things work, but that from a standpoint of getting contracts done now and not having problems later, start with B5 now, but give us specific direction in your motion to try and maximize it to Lucerne. Then that's what we start optimizing for over the next 9 to 15 months.
Yeah.
That's where we were at when we
Okay.
started talking about other stuff. So now I'll go ahead and open it to the public. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board, Tom Lasik, Mr. Day, thank you. Big fan of renewable energy. Pump storage is exciting, and I too am not philosophically against the project. But I am frustrated. As I think, thank you, Mr. Sabatier and Supervisor Owen, for pointing out that it is not the recent direction of the board to, and no disrespect, to hobnob with the developers and investors. It's not that that shouldn't be done by the county, but it was not the role of the Energy Policy Ad Hoc Committee. As was made abundantly clear to Mr. Rickelman last month, that you need to focus on energy policy. Mr. Rickelman says, yeah, but can we still, I'll paraphrase, play house and have tea parties and eat hors d'oeuvres? And the answer is no. Focus on getting a policy together. A couple other things real quick, because I have limited time. This is not a policy conversation. This is a project conversation. The only thing that's come out of here that I can see that and understand that it's actually a policy is the concept of the board wanting to serve as many people as possible. That was the only policy statement that I heard here. Everything else is project related. It's guised as a policy question, but if you look at the slides, it's all about revenue and cash flow and how many hours. Are you going to have a policy on the number of hours a project is required to generate? No, that's a project question. It frustrates me if an energy policy ad hoc committee doesn't understand the difference. So that's something that I hope they bring home back. The other thing is, and with respect, Mr. Day, you didn't answer Ms. Owen's questions about the numbers. And my question as a member of the community is, when you say cash flow, whose cash flow? How does the county benefit from any of this? $180 million, but there are tax credits. And that's $90 million. Who's $90 million? The only benefit I understand from this is the resiliency. But all the money that's going back and forth, that's a business decision that, as I understand it, hasn't been fleshed out because we don't have a policy. And it seems to be that, well, that's going to make it more or less profitable for some company that comes in. But it's never been articulated how the county benefits financially from this project. You gave a lot of stuff, but with all due respect, you didn't answer a question. $90 million, how much of that is the county going to have to pay, and when? How is that going to, as she said, pencil out? I'm frustrated. I'm glad that Supervisor Owen called the ad hoc committee out on focusing on policy, and it seems like the rest of the group doesn't quite get it yet. You got 40 days to meet the directive of the board from last month. That's not your doing, that's administration.
All right,
But
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Do we have anyone else in the room?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Supervisors, Margot Kambara. According to the CAO's memo to your board dated August 4th, 2026, quote, this item seeks board direction only and carries no additional fiscal impact, end quote. Why is this item on the agenda? Your board authorized a feasibility study for this project. Today, admin asked for direction needing pre-engineering planning. Rather than a death by 1,000 cuts, it's a death by 1,000 decisions in the dark without the benefit of a comprehensive energy policy. This agenda item would benefit from evaluation against a county's comprehensive energy policy. Today, your board must make a decision based on a policy decision that has not been subjected to robust analysis nor discussion. The Flash's feasibility study results should be presented to your board with options about project service boundaries and facts supporting the options. The County Energy Policy Development Ad Hoc Committee needs to set table for energy projects, as Supervisor Pyska suggests. Developing the energy policy is part of table setting. An important element of energy policy is defining revenue participation. The Lake County deserves its fair share for energy generation within the county. The ad hoc committee's request for direction today is better answered with the county energy policy set with requirements for energy participation and a review of Flash's project facts, weighing the options of increasing service area or to focus service to a compact area involves cost-benefit analysis. The business model of Flashes needs to be validated first. What are the factors contributing to increased cost to expand the service area to Lucerne? What are the benefits or return on investment for expanding service to return? Resilience benefits is a vague term. The memo doesn't provide this detail. Your board's direction to the ad hoc committee is sound and still applies now more than ever. The ad hoc committee needs to focus on developing the county's comprehensive energy policy. The clock is ticking. The policy draft is due 60 days from July 14th. Meanwhile, direction on this agenda item should be tabled until the comprehensive energy policy is available. The risk of moving forward with a project decision here or a decision there, the county can find itself painted into a corner or losing advantages by making decisions without a comprehensive energy policy. It sounds like Lake County is on the hook to move forward with this project if it is deemed feasible. I hope that your board considers feasibility to include favorable terms and community benefits for Lake County. Without an energy policy, there is risk that a third party or a developer can come in and finish the project.
Thank you.
Whether it's good for Lake County or not. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else in the room? Do we have anyone online? Sterling?
Yes, okay. So I'm asking the board to pause further discretionary actions on Flashes until Lake County has completed an energy policy in the energy element. For months, we have been told that the county needs these protections. From recent timeline discussions, was roughly 30 to 60 days for the energy policy and 60 to 90 days for the energy element. If we are that close, why are we moving major energy development forward before establishing the rules that are supposed to govern it? The timeline concerns me. On June 23rd, this board approved the PG&E MIP grant agreement, development reimbursement agreements with Trains. Then on July 8th, Michael Day of Trains briefed the ad hoc energy policy committee on B4 and B5. And that committee preferred B5 because of the potential financial impact on the project availability. That committee was created to work on Lake County's energy policy. So while we still don't have that policy, is the Energy Policy Committee discussing specific developer project boundaries and financial availability. And now Flashes comes before this board, and your own presentation explicitly calls choosing B4 or B5 a policy decision for the Board of Supervisors. What energy policy are you using to make an energy policy decision when Lake County's energy policy hasn't even been completed? And Train says including Lucerne would reduce cash flow by 20 to 25%. You guys already went over that, so I don't have to do that. So my question would be for EJ Crandall and Brad. This is going in your area. Your community and all the community in Lake County has expressed how we need the energy policy. And then my other question would be for them to finish answering is the same financial question for Helen. And then also, what companies have came to Flashes prior to them coming here and presenting this to us wants to buy in? These are important things that we need to be asking because this is our future and we're this close to having an energy policy. So like Helen said, we don't put the cart before the horse. And like Jessica Pyska said, we set the table before we make decisions. And right now we're putting the cart before the horse and we're not setting this table before we make decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else online? Guest. I believe that's Angela.
It is, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank Mr. Day once again for providing more details on this project and consideration for the extended boundary. We've been excited about this program for quite some time. I understand the concerns over not having an energy policy in place, But this is a different type of project. This is not geothermal. This is not, it's not a huge solar farm. It does have a solar element to it, but it isn't the first project of its kind in Lake County. I believe the Hidden Valley project is still moving forward and is ahead of this one on the scale. Sutter Health also has backup generators as well, so this will be a supplemental to their generators. I am in favor of option B and the extended boundary to cover as much area as possible. With the extended boundary, it will reduce the number of residents needing to use other power sources during outages, such as gas generators. And you notice it still reaches a 96-hour maximum in April through October. Like Supervisor Sabatier pointed out, we might not get another shot at this. So I say go for option B, the extended boundary, and cover everyone, as many people as you can. We would have loved to have seen this in the eastern part of District 3. Unfortunately, we all know that we weren't picked for it, but thank you again for moving this forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? No other hands. No, then I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the board. And I think we need to be clear too, this is not a project at this point. This is a feasibility study. We don't know if it's ever going to be a project yet.
That's
Anyway,
why I
go
wanted to
ahead.
make sure we weren't going to get a
Supervisor.
clawback.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments. It's a little rough out there. But you are asking for, if we had a policy, we would be able to move forward. You're asking for specifics that would be in the policy of what is our philosophy? Are we going to go safe with a project that we can 100% get accomplished if it pencils out? Or do we want to try to maximize what these projects can do? So you are asking us a policy. A lot of questions. I have a lot of questions about the finances, but I know you're not going to be able to answer that until we do the feasibility study, which is the reason that we have to do the feasibility study. And we are putting in some skin in the game, which is a risk. But we're also doing something that I feel is going to have great potential if the feasibility study works out. So I'm ready to move forward. I don't want to miss on any opportunity. I apologize for the muddling, and I appreciate your time, Mr. Day, as well. But I think we need to move forward because this project has been in the works for, has it really been 8 years? But I said 3 or 4. But we may not agree on exactly how it needs to move forward, but we have to move forward today. We cannot keep delaying for the policy, which is in the works. And this is one of the questions that will hopefully also help us identify how we move forward for the rest of the other projects that we do. So,
Thank you. I think Supervisor Crane.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. I'm glad that Angela said what she said about Clear Lake Oaks not being in the area. That's the whole reason why I talked to Ben. Ben, I need to ask this just for clarification. Did you bring this because when I talked to you in the hall about possibly Lucerne being left out, I mean, I don't know if, I feel like because I brought that up, you brought that here, and I feel bad because if that's the case, then I feel like I just incurred another, like the energy policy thing got thrown out like a piece of meat just because I asked for that. If I'd have known that, I wouldn't have brought it, but I could not do it because we're using the Lucerne substation, and Lucerne's going to hear like, wow, we're using the Lucerne substation and we're not even included. So I was like, that's why I brought it up to you. So I just had to state that because I'm worried that, like I brought this here and now we're sitting here, hib-hobbing over the energy policy, which I think is very important. But my intent wasn't to bring it for that.
No, we brought it up not specifically with you because of the direction we need to provide PG&E with the grant. So that's why I came to the board.
Okay. Yeah. So I just, I thought that's what it was, and I felt like, oh no. But either way, I mean, I'm gonna push for my district, especially the town of Lucerne. If Clear Lake Oaks was an option, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd like to see as much as possible, but again, the will of the board is where it goes, and so. Yeah.
All right, so we need an actual motion or just direction, County Council?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So direction can be provided by consensus for your board
Okay.
with specific direction to staff.
So I'll just confirm again, it sounded like we had consensus for the starting with the smaller, but your direction to people is to focus to serve as many people as we can. So, okay.
But you're going to start with the smaller footprint and expand it because it's easier to do mathematically.
That's my understanding.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You had mentioned skin in the game. I'm sorry for the one more question. Are you talking about money?
Yes, at one point, we went past a point in time where we kept working with Train, where if we said, let's keep going and aiming for it, slowly but surely, there would be an accumulation of cost to the county if we just said, we're done.
That's wiped out.
It's done.
It's done. So,
We went through, and so that's, yeah, it's wiped out.
so we're good. So this feasibility study won't cost us.
Except for your own
Staff time.
Staff.
No, that's
time,
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
And you do get some recoup on your staff time too,
Yeah,
within
yeah.
the grant.
But the grant's covering it, so.
You're gonna get yelled at that you need to speak in the microphone.
All right, so we've given direction. I believe you guys have that. So I appreciate you coming in. And
We've been working on
I
this
need to
since
take a break.
2019.
Thank you, Mr. Day.
I forgot that's when I met him in
order, and we're going to handle our I believe that was 5.4. I'll read it out. A, adopt a resolution of the County of Lake authorizing the execution of a First Amendment to Joint Exercise of Powers Agreement that established the Lake County Financing Authority for the purpose of substituting members. And then B, adopt a resolution of the Lake County Sanitation District authorizing the execution of a First Amendment to Joint Exercise of Powers Agreement that established the Lake County Public Financing Authority for the purpose of substituting members. C, adopt a resolution of Lake County Watershed Protection District authorizing the execution of a First Amendment to Joint Exercise of Powers Agreement that established the Lake County Public Financing Authority for the purpose of substituting members. And D, approval of First Amendment to the Lake County Public Financing Authority Joint Exercise of Powers Agreement. And we have our treasurer, tax collector, auditor, controller, and administrative office here. I'm not sure who's going to start.
All right. Patrick Sullivan, treasurer, tax collector. I'll lead off with sort of a recap of what brought this item forward. I think as your board is aware, we previously raised some concerns after learning that the Lake County Sanitation District was going to be splitting and becoming independent in a few weeks here, I believe on the 18th. So one of the things that came to our attention was that the Lake County Public Financing Authority is only composed of 2 members. It's a joint powers agency that was created by the county using 2 entities that were controlled and part of the county. And that is the common practice, that a financing authority is often made up of the county and a housing authority or redevelopment or some other entity that's controlled by the same board and part of the same overall structure. With the LACO Sand Board changing, the prudent course of action from the perspective of our offices was to make an adjustment there. So we contacted our municipal advisor, we contacted our bond counsel, and we came up with this course of action, which was to remove the Lake County Sanitation District from the JPA. Well, actually first to add the Watershed Protection District, which is another entity that is county administered. Your board sits there as well. We would remove the Lake County Sanitation District from the JPA so that at the end of this process, the new JPA structure would be the County of Lake and the Lake County Watershed Protection District. I understand later that the Lake County Sanitation District, there's different possibilities of what could occur. It may further split. Part of it may detach and be administered separately. And that, I realize, was another series of questions that came our way, because that piece that may split has a bond that was initially issued through the Public Financing Authority. We did speak with our municipal advisor and bond counsel about that issue. That bond has separate covenants that indenture payment on it. So there is no issue that we're aware of with removing that bond, with removing LACO Sand from the authority. In terms of that, the action proposed here doesn't impair that bond. But typically, the county as an entity would not want its public financing authority to have that non-county entity on board. So one day, if the sanitation district rejoins the county, it would be perfectly acceptable to add it back to the JPA, and it could join there, or you could sub out the Watershed Protection District. It really wouldn't matter. That would be your board's choice at the time. But it's important that that entity continues to exist and operate in a, have the ability to operate in a streamlined and predictable manner. And that's what this item is proposing. We're here, we're available to answer questions if your board has them. I would also note we did invite our bond counsel, Scott Ferguson from Jones Hall, and he is standing by on Zoom. And I'm aware there could be questions that could be more appropriately directed to him.
Thank you. And do we have questions from board members at this point? Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, the reason I pulled this was needed to have better clarification on, there's the bond. The reason we created this Joint Powers Authority was for the 2011 bond, same years that the bond for LACO Sand occurred. This JPA was created. To suddenly split it off just seemed Like there was something more that I needed to understand and understanding how that separation would affect both the county and also affect Lake San. I'm thinking of the rate users in the long run. They're the ones paying off the bond. I didn't want any changes to occur or adverse impacts from this decision. I have absolutely, well, I will make one clarification. I think we need to do C before we do B, because C is adding watershed protection district and B is approving the resolution from sanitation. If we do B first, we just kill the entire JPA. I know it's kind of weird because we could do it all simultaneously, but I think we should do C before we do B. But if we do C, which is adding the watershed protection district, I just don't know what is the problem with keeping Lake County Sanitation District where it is, with the financial institution that it utilized to get their bond, because it's probably going to come right back when we're done with whatever the LAFCO decision will be. There's going to be the county and watershed. That's a majority, where Lake County Sanitation, which is now a mixture of board members, will never have a say on what to do with this JPA. So I unless there's explanations as to why we have to separate, that can really be provided, and I hope Mr. Ferguson is able to provide some of those details. I know that I have zero issues with the Watershed Protection District. That makes perfect sense to me to put it in there. But I both the impacts on the sheriff bond and the impact on the Lake San bond, I still have my concerns. I'm hearing it, but I'm not seeing documentation regarding it, and just want to, if it's simpler to just remain as is with the Watershed Protection District, which gives the Board of Supervisors a majority vote in the JPA, if that's a possibility to move forward, I think that, in my opinion, would be easier and cleaner, but I'd love to hear from Mr. Ferguson and from County Council.
County Council.
Oh, just briefly, if I may, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
please.
So just as an introductory matter, just to confirm and clarify this, that for this particular item, your board is sitting concurrently, both as County of Lake Board of Supervisors, the Board of Directors of the Lake County Sanitation District, and the Board of Directors of the Lake County Watershed Protection District, because these resolutions do refer to those three entities.
And the Board of Directors of the JPA Financial Authority.
Yes. So just as an introductory matter for...
Yes, thank you for that. Sorry I didn't clarify that in the beginning. Did you were finished, Supervisor?
Yeah, those are my main concerns and questions that I haven't received documentation other than just words, which I appreciate the time that we've had together, but just...
Can we start with a question on his request on leaving the Lake San in there as a third? Can we start with that?
Yeah, and we do have relevant information provided here, but it may be appropriate at this point to see if Scott wants to weigh in and take the first crack at this.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Sure. So I'm Scott Ferguson. Excuse me. I'm with Jones Hall. We're the county's bond counsel and have been for many years. On the effect of the bonds, the authority, sanitation district, they are independent, standalone entities, and they will continue to exist regardless of changes in board members. And with the authorities, from the perspective of the authority, regardless of changes of members. And so as far as affecting the outstanding bonds of the authority, none of those changes will matter. As long as the authority continues to exist, and as long as the sanitation district continues to exist and to observe its covenants under the bond documents for the 2011 bonds, there should not be any adverse effect as far as bondholders are concerned. So I just wanted to, as a baseline, as far as the advisability of leaving the sanitation district as a JPA member, from a bond perspective, I don't have an opinion on that. The JPA will continue, and the bonds will continue to have their covenants, whether or not the sanitation district is a member or not.
Okay. Supervisor Sabach?
Yeah, just a follow-up question. The Lake Hosan would never have gotten their bond if it wasn't for the creation of the JPA in the first place. Am I correct on that or not?
The JPA was used as a financing vehicle. Yes, that is correct. However, there are other ways to do revenue bonds. It could have been structured as a certificate of participation using a finance corporation. That's an alternative. But we've always advised it's handy to have a joint powers authority. There's less care and upkeep than there is with a financing corporation. Bonds seem to have a better reception in the market. So that was the reason for forming the JPA.
Okay, and then even though through the JPA is how Lake Hosan obtained their bonds, and that's the vehicle that was utilized, they can leave that vehicle with zero impact is what you're saying, and there is no leftover burden or responsibility to the remaining JPA, who was the original vehicle to access and get those bonds.
The sanitation district, we could have, and the county could have used the JPA to issue bonds for Lake Hosan, even if Lake Hosan were not a member of the JPA. You could have formed the JPA with the Watershed Protection District and the county as its two members, and then it would have been as it is today, a validly existing joint powers authority with the ability to do a financing for another public agency, which would have been the sanitation district. So there was no, it's I won't say it was a coincidence, but it was it just made sense at that time, I believe, to use the sanitation district as the other member. But it wasn't necessary to carry out the financing. And with the sheriff's facility financing, right, that was unrelated to Lake Hosan, but we use the same authority as a standalone, validly existing joint powers authority.
Correct. Well, I needed you on record for that conversation. I don't know enough to know enough, but I'm going to go with what you are saying, and I'm happy to move forward to just move forward.
All right. Do we have any other board questions at this point? Or anything else, admin, or you guys want to offer before I open for public? No? Okay, I'll open it up for public comment. Do we have anybody in the room?
Good afternoon, Chair Rasmussen, board members, Alan Flores, City Manager, City of Clear Lake. I guess I struggle to understand the motivation behind doing this so quickly. I also don't know that there's necessarily any negative repercussions around this, but I don't really feel like anyone's looking out for Lake Hosan here, and that's disappointing to me. I am confused and frustrated that the documents, the actual loan documents from 2011 that were prepared for this financing, multiple requests from me, from various county staff, to provide those so that we could review them and make sure that we're comfortable that this action would not have negative future impacts to either Lake Hosan or the Southeast system, and they still haven't been provided. And I don't think that that's right, and I'm very disappointed that it hasn't happened. I appreciate the comments from Jones Hall. The city has used Jones Hall, not Mr. Ferguson, but some other employees. Have no concern with their firm, but I don't understand why this action is being hurried without the ability for everyone to vet this and make sure that there's not going to be any negative repercussions. In fact, the meeting that we had here in this room, or in this building yesterday, we all left with the impression that this action was going to be delayed for a week while everyone had the chance to review the documents and make sure that there would not be a negative impact to Lake Osan. So those are the comments I wanted to share with the board.
Thank you, Alan. Is there anyone else in the room that wishes to comment? Do we have anyone online? No hands, so I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. Go ahead, Supervisor.
Yeah, just a question, Mr. Ferguson. Have you had the chance to review those loan documents?
The
And
the
review?
2011 bond documents, yes, I have.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I guess the question I would just ask to clarify, so if we were to leave Lake Osan, or if we were to leave them on here, then that separate board down 6 months down the road would also have to vote on everything that came in front of the bond committee. And so there'd be 3 boards voting on it. Is that,
I
am I
think
understanding that
there's
right?
some potential uncertainty. There are situations that could arise, for instance, if the JPA agreement had to be amended, where you would need all 3 agencies to agree on that change. Each of those boards has to ratify a change to the agreement. So if we had to make an alteration to comply with, a legislative need or anything to that effect, there are situations where all 3 boards do have to weigh in. For standard decision making, the Financing Authority Board would hear it, but there's a lot of uncertainty. I think to Mr. Flora's point, we're on a really accelerated timeline with this whole process, and so I don't think anyone's had the opportunity to explore all the different aspects of this, but the timeline appears to be locked, so we're trying to operate within those confines that in 2 weeks everything's going to be complete here. So I think that's where it's coming from. I think certainly there's a host of issues that we all wish there was more time to fully review.
Okay.
And since you said that, I know that you had mentioned that it's fine to delay by 1 week, but not any further, that would be a possibility. Seems like Mr. Ferguson has his finger on the 2011 loan document, if it's possible to get a copy of that. But if it's still fine in the way that it was expressed in our yesterday's meeting, then what does it hurt to wait a week, review the documents a little bit better to make sure that we don't put ourselves in any situation, whether it's the county or Lake Osan?
I'll speak from our office perspective, and then I'll pass it over. I mean, for us, we have reviewed everything that we feel is necessary at this point. We did review the 2011 bond. And again, I understand people wish they had more time. If we want more time, next week is the last possible moment. But I don't have any clarity on why we're on this time frame, why we're on this artificially constrained time frame. That can't be altered. So I think if we want more time to look at things, I would encourage this overarching time frame to change, to allow time to examine all of the available issues. So if that's where the concern's coming from, I would echo that across the whole spectrum here.
Anything else? No? Okay. All right, well, and I know I talked to you late yesterday, and that was one of my concerns with this bond that Lake Osan still owes money on, but I'm confident at this point that nothing that this is doing is going to affect that. They're still continuing to pay, and if there wouldn't be any negative impact on their credit rating or their ability as an independent entity in 2 months to go look for their own bond again.
Right, there's no impact to them, but leaving them on and pushing it till the last second just puts the county at a little more risk, and I don't know why we would do that.
Okay.
And there is one other piece I want to add, because there have been questions about the credit rating, and Mr. Ferguson hopefully can confirm this, but my understanding is that these actions here are not what could impact the credit rating. The credit rating can be impacted by various elements of this process, and we don't have clarity or certainty on what that could be. But after the split occurs, we don't know exactly how that could impact credit ratings, but that's not related to this. That's related to that other item that will come on the 18th.
Right. Okay. Is there any other board questions or?
Just wondering, is your recommendation to do C first, as Supervisor Sabatier brought up?
County Council, can you?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So your board may take up action item C first before the rest, and also to take item D last, because that's the amendment document.
C first and D last.
Okay. I will offer a resolution, the Lake County Watershed Protection District authorizing the execution of a First Amendment to joint exercise of power agreement that established the Lake County Public Financing Authority for the purpose of substituting members.
So that resolution has been offered. Watershed.
Are the directors? Yeah. Board of directors? Okay. Director Owen? Aye. Director Sabatier?
Aye.
Director Crandall?
Yes.
Director Pyska?
Yes.
And Director Rasmussen?
Aye.
Okay, then start with A. Okay. For the resolution of the County of Lake authorizing the execution of a First Amendment to joint exercise of power agreement that established the Lake County Public Financing Authority for the purpose of substituting members.
That resolution's been offered.
This is Board of Supervisors. Okay, Supervisor Owen?
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Rasmussen?
Aye.
And B,
B. Yeah.
adopt or offer the resolution of the Lake County Sanitation District authorizing the execution of the First Amendment to the joint exercise of powers agreement that established the Lake County Public Financing Authority for the purpose of substituting members.
The resolution's offered.
Director Owen?
Aye.
Director Sabatier?
Aye.
Director Crandall?
Aye.
Director Pyska?
Yes.
And Director Rasmussen?
Aye.
And finally, I move that we approve the First Amendment to the Lake County Public Financing Authority Joint Exercise of Powers Agreement.
Resolution's offered.
That's a motion.
Our motion.
Second.
Sorry. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 5-0 and concludes that item. Thank you. And then we're going to move on to a 1:30 item, 6.7. Do we have Ms. Costa here? This is consideration of a presentation on Lake County's System Improvement Plan, SIP, for the term of November 2025 through November of 2030. Looks like it's on. Is it green? Or?
Thank you. So I'm presenting obviously with Kevin Lewis, and first I just want to say this board amazes me. Thank you so much. You cover so much ground for so many aspects of the county, and you have to pivot every, with each new event. So really appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. Chief Deputy Probation Officer Kevin Lewis, along with Ms. Costa. We also have Lisa Molinar with Shared Vision Consultants. So we are here today to present the county's SIP, which is the System Improvement Plan. So by way of a brief introduction, the California Child and Family Services Review is modeled after the federal Child and Family Services Review process. This process is designed to improve outcomes for children and families involved in the child welfare system while holding counties and the state accountable for achieving positive outcomes in child safety, permanency, and well-being. As part of this California Child and Family Services Review process, the county develops a 5-year system improvement plan. This serves as a roadmap for the child welfare services and probation departments. It implements measurable strategies that improve outcomes for children and families. This negotiated system improvement plan has been finalized with CDSS and is presented for the board, or presented to the board for approval.
Kevin, do we have slides coming up?
We do have slides.
I got it if you want me to do it.
You can do it, yeah. Are you on?
I'm joining Zoom right now. Somebody can make me a
Host.
You guys can maybe get started. I'll
You bet.
be right there with you.
So the first slide is going to be, it's going to look like this. And it's just, I don't know, some people are visual and this swirly thing might be helpful to you. But it basically attempts to depict what our process was. And I'll break that down really quickly. So as Kevin mentioned, every 5 years we have the opportunity to look at our practice, stand back, look at the big picture, look at the data and say, based on federal and state markers, what areas of our practice would benefit most from our attention for improvement. And so we go about that by first thinking about what we know about our practice. Probation does it for their agency, child welfare does it for ours. We each have to think about our agency, what do we know, and then we take an internal deeper dive. We have discussions and focus groups with our staff to see what are their observations with some of those federal markers in mind. We have kind of a hypothesis at the beginning of where we think is going to be the most benefit. We have conversations with our staff in a very directed, focused way. That's where our consultants help us out to really go about gathering the data that we want and need from that. And then we also open those conversations up to community partners, agencies that work with us, and folks that are just basically interested in what we do. So that can be law enforcement, community service providers, the juvenile court, and we just get as much feedback as possible. We also get the data from quarterly, this is the slide, thank you so much, from quarterly data that's pulled from a source that keeps track of our data, all the county's data, and we put all that together and we crunch it and we distill it down and we say which of these areas does it look like we are going to benefit from most. The data is compared to the federal averages and markers. They get markers and how they expect states and counties should function. Sometimes it's a little mystery to me how they dial in on that, but nonetheless we use that as part of our guideline to say, are we functioning the way we want to be functioning? So that was our process. I do want to mention that at our community stakeholders meeting, when we brought in outside groups, I think your documents list at least 60 different persons representing different agencies that were there providing input, and we listened to all of it and use it for a meaningful response to our SIP.
Next slide, please. So, as you can I apologize, right back. Thank you so much. So that meeting that was just mentioned happened on February 19th at Robinson Resort and Casino. Lots of really good input from the community, from stakeholders, from tribes, from interested members, people who wanted to contribute. And so once that county self-assessment period closed, the system improvement plan was developed and presented to California Department of Social Services by that November 7th deadline that you can see. It does have to go through a review process with the state, and then once that happens and it's presented to the board, the next 4 years, there's a progress report that happens every November 7th, and we report on our progress in the areas articulated in the SIP.
Is this you or me? Okay. So child welfare and probation each select the areas they want to improve upon. And child welfare, and they all have titles, S2, P1. and they have names that sometimes are hard to understand. But our two areas of improvement are what is characterized as recurrence of maltreatment, which means, according to the marker, that of all children with a substantiated allegation during a 12-month period, what % had another substantiated allegation of neglect or abuse within that 12-month period. And when we review this marker, I'm going to provide you a little bit more information about what that means. But we've decided at Child Welfare that we want to strengthen our practice in this area to reduce the number of times we see a second substantiated allegation of abuse or neglect within a 12-month period. The second focus we're taking on during the next 5 years is a reunification in 12 months. This is when children have to be removed from their families due to safety concerns, and there's no way, no reasonable means to keep them safe in their home. They have to be returned at some point. That is the goal. The hope is that they are returned. We work within a system, legal system, that can give up to 12, 18, maybe 24 months of efforts to help families get ready to receive their children home safely. But this marker is saying, try really hard to have a certain portion of your children be able to go home safely within 12 months of the time they came into foster care. And so we're going to focus on seeing if we can up that number.
For probation, we're focusing on service array, which simply it's delivering a comprehensive service that's available and accessible and able to be individualized. And I'll touch on that more at the end of our presentation.
Okay, a little more of the recurrence of maltreatment. Again, graphs are not my favorite way to understand things, but you have in your packet the numbers that we have more than the national average of children that have a second substantiated referral within that 12-month. But I wanted to tell you kind of what that looks like in real terms here in Lake County. So by far, the bulk of those incidents are for general neglect, and therefore, for the most part, young children. And so general neglect, you can have substantiated report of general neglect when a child is considered at risk of significant physical harm or illness. So the child doesn't necessarily have to have suffered that physical harm or illness yet, but we take very seriously the at-risk. And so a lot of times, to break it down, oversimplified, you might have a young mother giving birth. There's positive talks for substances. There is knowledge of certain circumstances, maybe not a safe home to go back to, maybe a history of some abusive relationship, et cetera, et cetera. There's many different scenarios, but we evaluate each one of those to say, is there a reasonable means to help this mother provide safety to this child, this mother or father, if the father is present, obviously. So we look at that child as meeting all that definition. Let's just say there wasn't safe housing at that point. That is a substantiated referral. And the next thing we do is, as mandated by law, we would consider, is there a voluntary way to work with this family? And so at that point, we often connect. Not all parents, not every scenario is going to lend itself to being amenable to voluntary services. But we evaluate that, and if there is some reasonable means to help provide safety, we connect that mother, for example, and that child with maybe a residential treatment center where she can bring her child, or with family members where she can go into their home and provide and be surrounded with support that she needs, et cetera. And then we connect that family with our community supports, our differential response for some very intensive services, et cetera. And that is how we support that family and give them an opportunity to not lose custody of their child and to have that child in a safe scenario, in a situation. But let's just say 3 months later, mother has not taken the path of becoming more safe. She has gotten back into a situation where she's in an unsafe relationship, or she's left a safe home. And so now that child is again at risk of serious harm or illness. And so that is a second substantiation. That child may not have endured any particular maltreatment outside of a high level of risk that we don't want to see, where we don't want to see actual harm occur. So I take time to tell you that, because I think this term can be quite scary, as if children are continuing to experience actual abuse and neglect. Sometimes it's the risk of that, and we watch, and by law we give opportunity, and then if that doesn't work out, you do have another second substantiation. So that is the bulk of what the recurrence looks like. There are some other scenarios we could talk about, but so our focus here, well, we'll get onto that when we do the strategy. And what I'd like to do is maybe bounce just a little bit out of order, if we could, instead of talking about this right now, to go down to that second strategy, the one that speaks to this, the challenge that I just pointed out, which is our to reduce those recurrence of maltreatment. So our strategy basically is going to strengthen our emergency response protocols. As I just described, this problem that we see is happening at the front end of our system, where we're trying to keep families from ending up in juvenile court, trying to help children be safe inside their own homes. So and this strategy isn't like brand new things. We do these things, but we're focusing on doing them better. We're focusing on doing a deeper dive to understand, if we can, patterns where recurrence might happen, and to set up even more effective assessment tools to evaluate what families have, what supports they have available to them, to connect them with the best possible community services. And then a big piece of it is to follow up a little more as an agency, to stay involved with those families a little bit more, because sometimes we're always relying on our community partners, but we're going to up our involvement in that a little bit. So that's kind of the main focus of this, and all of the tools that we use. Well, we're going to be doing a lot of training, but making sure that we're using to the best possible degree the evidence-based tools that are designed to help us with these decisions. We use them now, but we're just going to help ensure that we're upping that as best we can to see if we can reduce that recurrence number a little bit. Thank you. And then if you don't mind, if we can go back up to the next. There we go. So the reunification in 12 months, this is a little bit like the flip side of that coin. The first side of the coin is to attempt to keep children in their homes, not having to face removal, but safely in their homes. And then sometimes there's a recurrence that causes them to come out. And again, there are legal guidelines that tell us this is what you must do. This is sort of the other side of that coin, because the law also says you will return that child to that family as soon as you possibly can. So we do our work with protocols and markers in mind from the federal government, but we do it in a very constructed legal environment, which is the juvenile court system and the Welfare and Institutions Code, and they are very clear about the level of risk that has to be present before a child should or can be removed from their parents' care. And that level of risk is higher than what it takes to substantiate a referral. So again, we're trying to work voluntarily, and then if a child does need to be removed for safety, the law is very clear. You will return that child just as soon as that risk has been reduced. So we've tended to be pretty careful once a child had reached the level of having to be removed for safety. And so we're being challenged now to think of all the ways that we can evaluate families well and do the best assessments possible to help move some of those families, children, back into the homes a little more quickly. and the strategy. Thank you. A little more detail on how we think we're going to get there. We've decided to focus on our progressive visitation policy. The reason for that is research has shown a number of times that really high quality contact between parents and children when children are placed out of the home, to have a meaningful and frequent contact together, family time that actually provides opportunity for coaching and to practice new skills and to get feedback, that it not only helps parents stay engaged in all their other services, but it helps basically provide hope, and it helps them to grow in empathy to what their children are going through, and it just helps them to become more prepared overall. So we do already have a structure in place for a pretty good progressive visitation policy and approach, but again, we want to take that and make it as effective as possible. We think we can do better, and we believe this will have a good effect on the outcomes. Also, we're going to focus on ensuring that when we're working with families, it's behavioral based. In other words, it's not just, here was a problem, you had some drugs, just go do a substance abuse program. It isn't just that. It's show behaviorally that this problem has been addressed. The thing that was interfering with your ability to care for your children has been addressed. And so we strive to do that already, behaviorally based, but we're just going to focus on all of the evidence-based practices and the tools that we have to make sure our staff across the board is trained to do that well.
If you can go down to the probation strategy, please. Perfect. And so, as I mentioned, probation is focusing on a service array. Next slide, please. And the probation strategy is identifying tribal leaders and advocates to establish working relationships to provide those culturally competent services. And so 2 specific ways that the department is pursuing that goal. Right now we have a probation officer that meets regularly at after school programs with 2 of the tribes. The purpose is to get, for the kids to get comfortable with that officer and to be able to understand what they're there to do and what they're not there to do. They're not there to be scary. They're there to be a person of support that the kids can feel comfortable to, whether it be in a school setting or in the community setting. We are also working with the Lake County Children's Council, and we are pursuing positive Indian parenting as a program throughout the community. And this is something that Chief Monfrance presented during governance in January, and something that the board was able to hear just a little bit on in April during child abuse prevention. Positive Indian parenting, along with other parenting programs, is a great way for parents around the community to get tools, support, and in the case of this program, culturally relevant services specific to the tribal needs. To date, there have been between 20 and 25 community and tribal members that have been certified to facilitate positive Indian parenting. There have been 3 cohorts that have happened throughout the county, at Big Valley, at Scotts Valley Tribal TANF, and also at Tribal Health. There is a subcommittee that meets monthly to work on continuing to expand this positive Indian parenting program, including meeting next Monday in Middletown. And the idea is for this program to be able to be spread throughout all of the community so that everybody who needs and can benefit these services can do so.
I apologize, the internet died on me, but we were on the last page, so I think it worked out perfect.
That's okay. That concludes our presentation.
All right. Any questions from board members?
No, I just glad to see that you brought this forward to us. It's something that I know on the rancherias locally, there's high amount of problems with child welfare and family services, and reunification is always something that that's important and uppermost in the tribe's aspect when it comes to the tribal families. So just seeing all of the work that you're putting into it and collaborating with them, and then just looking at it as a whole, because usually the children always yearn for their parents regardless of the situation. So if you can help give them those tools to be more cognizant of their behaviors and working to get past their addictions or working to get past their anger management, things like that, to put them in a position to reunify with a child, bring them home, it's always the best case scenario. So I just wanted to comment on that, because this is something I deal with quite frequently as well in another aspect. So.
Well, thank you, and I'd like to take that opportunity to say we are always so appreciative to work with the tribes, because it's so clear the commitment that the tribes here in Lake County have to their children and their families, and we get a lot of support in doing that. Sometimes there's understandings to work out between, what is expected, what is required, who needs to do what roles, but we are just super grateful to have the involvement and the support of the tribes. It makes a huge difference in the work we do with your children.
I've seen it work also with other, contractors that the county works with, like RCS and things like that, with the wraparound services, with other families in general. I've seen it work, so.
Thank you.
Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, I appreciate Ms. Costa's time yesterday on the phone to talk about my concerns on the data that was being provided here. Appreciate that there's always work happening, just always want to be supportive in how we can do better. I see this as a 5-year plan. What I'm hoping is maybe we can get an updated graph to show how we are doing, if we are doing better, during either our February meetings. Typically we have a workshop in January or February, or during a budget hearing, because it would be good for us to continue to pay attention than to wait 5 years later to see, did we make a difference or not. I'm very interested in keeping track rather than waiting 5 years.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, anything else from supervisors? I appreciate the presentation. I'm going to open it to the public right now. Do we have anyone in the room? Not seeing any. Do we have anyone online? No. Again, appreciate the work. Thank you for giving us that detail today.
Thank you.
And I guess we need action. We need a motion.
I'll move to approve Lake County's System Improvement Plan for the term of November 2025 to November 2030, and authorize the chair to sign. I think did you want something to add to that, like a year annually?
I mean, if there's a consensus to say yes, if we could just get a graph, we don't need to have a whole new presentation, but just here's how we're doing.
So we can do consensus.
Yeah.
I think we have that.
Second.
Doesn't need to be in the motion.
All right.
And I have a second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And all of a sudden, I can't get into any of my documents.
Can we take a little break?
Yeah, Wi-Fi
Can't.
went down, it's back up.
I have no access to documents, but I'm going to go ahead and call item 7.2, consideration of a letter of support for permanent sheep goat herder wage parity in the August budget trailer bill. This is on the agenda. We had some local folks that were concerned about this situation with the state law starting July 1st that makes it to where if someone was a goat herder, they have to be paid 24/7 basically, and it works out to over 20 grand a month, where a person doing the same job with sheep herding would has exemptions from that kind of pay. So we have it on for discussion to bring it to the board to see if we can get authority to send a letter to the state to request that this situation be rectified. And with that, I'll let you make some comments, Supervisor Owen.
Okay.
I want to thank our admin for drafting this letter. There's a couple of changes I'd like to see in it. The first portion of it, the letter to the Speaker Rivas, I'd like it to be addressed to Governor Newsom. and leaders of the California State Legislature, and then if you wanted to put Honorable Speaker Rivas in there as well. The main thing is when when the ranching industry is a way of life, and often these people, just like contracts with other people on call, they're sleeping, they're occasionally, they'll have to get up and do something. They might work a couple hours a day, 3-4 hours a day, depending on the what needs to be done. They might have to fill up waters, move some fencing, some electric fencing when they're grazing. The rest of the time, they're not doing a lot of work. They're sleeping, they're eating. So for them to be required to pay almost $250,000 per year, obviously that's going to shut down the business. I've checked with the goat herders that we have here locally, and they said they can't pay it. They're waiting to see what happens. They will be going under. So what we're doing is we're asking that that they reconsider and put the rules to parallel with the sheep herders as well, and reduce the wages. A couple other things I'd like to see added is on the second page, paragraph 2, without permanently amending the goat herding labor requirements, these businesses will be forced to shut down. And then I have a little bit of other language, but I haven't quite finished it. But it's just a few little, to let them know how pertinent it is, that it's going to cost not just, we're not just going to lose the ability to graze with goats, which grazing with sheep will still be available, but they're not browsers, so they do more of the grasses, where your goats do weeds and brush that our sheep don't get to. And in the rougher terrain, the sheep can get, or the goats can get in there as well. So we're not only going to lose that, but we're also going to lose those jobs for those people that work those jobs. They're not asking for this. This is government bureaucracy. So we're asking that the board support a letter to our state legislatures to ask them to reduce this.
All right, any other questions or comments from board members? I don't have any problem with changing how it's addressed. I just want to make sure that we remain on the CCs for also our the legislators that cover Lake County, which they're on there now. So if there's no other questions, I'll open it up for public comment. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak on this item? Serena, you can state your name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Chair and Board. Serena Onate with Lake County Farm Bureau. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of maintaining a wage parity of the sheep and goat herders. California and Lake County, and specifically, experience wildfires, and to the point where there needs to be management of dry, flammable vegetation with prescribed grazing by sheep and goats, which offers not only mitigation, but also a climate and environmental friendly way to do this without resorting to pesticides or fossil fuels. And as Supervisor Owen had mentioned, sheep and goats together are especially effective to control wildfire fuels, because sheep's, like Supervisor Owen has mentioned, prefer the grassy area, while goats are better at going towards the fibrous and plant, the things that can carry the wildfires through the trees and dense brush, etc. And for decades, the state labor rules allowed herders tending to both sheep and goats to be paid a monthly minimum wage of a yearly salary of $58,000 plus a year, plus housing, food, transportation, for providing around-the-clock care, as Supervisor Owen had mentioned, to control and protect these animals. However, a few years ago, because of the California regulation referring directly to sheep herders, there has now been a disparity. So now goat herders are required to pay the goat herding businesses are now required to pay their herders $240,000 a year for the same services that sheep herders are providing. And like Supervisor Owen had mentioned, if this goes through, it'll not only take out goat herding businesses, but it'll also affect the community that uses these services to maintain brush and wildfire protection. So with your letter of support, we will be better able to, and make it retroactive to July 1st, because that's when the sunset expired, to maintain the same wage rules for both goat herders and sheep herders, allowing people to tend to both sheep and goats and be paid the same monthly wage and the $58K a year that I had mentioned, including housing, food, and transportation to keep these herders in our field, tending to our sheep and goats, and protecting our communities, schools, parks, and homes from wildfires carried by uncontrolled wildfire fuels. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room?
Good afternoon, Tom Lasik. I'm a member of the Farm Bureau, but I'm speaking for myself. I do support a letter with regard to this. $240,000 is quite steep. I recently have a new neighbor that has the interest of bringing in 300 acres, goats and sheep, but has yet to do that. I have not talked to him most recently, but I believe part of the concern is this legislation. As some of you may know, where I live is very, very rugged chaparral. He does have a business that works in Napa and somewhere in the Sierra foothills, but he would love to expand. However, I don't think the current legislation in its current form would make that cost effective for anybody. The current caretaker has been trained as a sheep herder just recently, but has yet to see, or sheep and goat herder, and has yet to see those the livestock on the property. I think it would be a great economic benefit, not only for the landowner, but as was just previously mentioned by Serena, it's a fantastic way for fire abatement. Goats and sheep can go to places that I can't take my tractor, or you can't take a dozer, and help mitigate fuels in a way that few other technologies can do even today. So please consider writing a letter and helping support our agricultural industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Not seeing anyone online? No. No hands? I'll bring it.
Yes, somebody just raised their hand.
Okay.
Antonio Gonzalez.
Antonio, if you could state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Antonio Gonzalez. I'm the goat guy in Lake County. I have a few goats. Most of the people know who I am. I've been doing this for about 20 years. And the legislation is kind of like a joke. It's a joke, basically, that this will put me out of business. I do this to support my family, my kids, and help other neighbors. The county, the different counties. I work in mostly Northern California, Mendocino, Lake County, Sonoma, Sacramento, all over the place. And if this goes through, I'm gonna have to sell all my animals. I don't think I'm gonna be able to afford my my workers, and all these animals will go to slaughter, to auction. They will go, I don't know, someplace that I don't even want to know, but it's concerning. Oh, I fear for this bill to pass, and since what we do is to help our community, our neighbors, our businesses, and it feels like the state wants to put us out of business for some reason. Don't know why. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else? No? I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for action.
I'd like to offer, let me look at, sorry, I was still writing.
Move to approve the letter as amended.
Yeah, so I'd like to approve the letter as amended. I do have just a couple other things I'd like to get with you, Terry, on. It's just basically letting them know that they're gonna affect the wildfire as well as the jobs, because the jobs weren't in there, the people that would work there.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you,
And with that, we're going to move on to our 7.3 item, which is consideration of amendment number 2 between the Lake County Sanitation District, Lake Sand Northwest Wastewater Treatment Plant, and Clear Lake Oaks County Water District for the acceptance of effluent for 25 years. And we have our special districts administrator and finance staff here. So I'll turn that over to you, Director Boré.
Good afternoon, and I think that Diana Mann from Clear Lake Oaks is on Zoom. Yes, that would probably be beneficial.
Diana Mann, is that you, Diana's iPhone?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, go ahead, County Council.
Okay.
Just briefly, just as an introductory matter again, for this item, your board is sitting in as the Board of Directors for Lake County Sanitation District.
Thank you for that clarification.
So good afternoon. This item is coming back to you. It was continued from a couple weeks ago. This agreement is regarding the 3.5-mile pipeline that connects the southeast affluent pipeline to the northwest pipeline. And the Clear Lake Oaks Water District owns the 3.5-mile pipeline. We both pay for our own electricity to pump the effluent. The agreement is extending it for 25 years to match the geyser affluent steam supplier agreement that we have recently passed, I believe in November, that contracted us to send all of our affluent from Lake Sand and Clear Lake Oaks water to the geysers for injection into the steam areas. And so this item is just a continuance of that agreement that we co-use that 3.5-mile pipeline, and it adds in that Lake Sand staff will work with Clear Lake Oaks staff to maintain that pipeline, which means it's, you know, a couple hours a month of staff time to walk the lines together. If we need to replace a valve or something like that, we will do that collaboratively. We aren't expecting a large dollar amount to maintain that, and that would be already included in our approved budget. And I've also included several other items of if we don't do this send the effluent to the pipeline, then what it could cost us for the northwest area, because our reservoir is not large enough and our sprinklers are no longer functional. So for us to increase the reservoir so that we could weather the winter months when we can't use the sprinkler system, then we're expecting that to be about a $10 million cost to expand the reservoir, and $3 million to put in all new sprinklers and piping. We would have to put in new valves, a pump station, do additional environmental to do that, and then replace a very expensive concrete ditch around the plant. That all of this is in complete disarray except the reservoir at this point. It hasn't been maintained for quite some time and has not been used. And so there's a sheet on here that has, you know, different price options, and these are not engineered estimates, so I would expect them to be relatively low. If we ended up having to put in a second pipeline because we can't come to an agreement to use the Clear Lake Oaks one, we estimate that to be between $7 and $8 million. And if we converted the plant to tertiary based on the Kelseyville tertiary study that we just had and kind of upsizing that, we think that's probably going to be about $30 million, and the operational cost would go drastically up. So this is an incredibly cost-effective method to dispose of our effluent. If we did go to tertiary and tried to discharge it into a waterway, we would have to renegotiate the Basin 2000 agreement with the state as well, because right now nothing can be sent into the lake. So I would like to open it up to any questions or.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Questions from supervisors? We'll start with Supervisor Sabatier.
So I know I've been a pain in the butt with this, and this is not about cutting off the pipeline. There has to be a pipeline. There's no other choice. We're knee deep in it. We have to move it to the direction of Calpine. We have to have this agreement. What I keep saying, and I'm not sure that it's very clear, is I'd like to ask this board, can somebody explain to me how the finances work between the entire system of the effluent pipeline? Because I've been asking questions, and I'm still very confused about what the overall cost is. I'll be honest, and I'm sure I'm going to get pushback. I think that Clear Lake Oaks is going to be paying a whole lot more than their rate users should be paying for what this deal is. I don't want to take advantage of Clear Lake Oaks. I don't want Lake Coast Sand to have to pay more. And we've asked, when the rate study came from Southeast, to have a review of the full effluent pipeline. We still haven't had that study. So today I am willing to approve something, but 25 years of approval is huge when we still haven't gotten any results from the request of a full effluent pipeline discussion so that we can understand that. In fact, I think we should have that every 5 years, every so often, not wait another 25 years to make sure that the deal is still working for us and that everyone is paying their fair share. I have here the amendment number 4 from before that still speaks specifically, and all of the main pipeline pumping power costs. Exhibit 1 contains examples in the manner in which the percentage shares shall be calculated. Exhibit 1 has never been amended. It is still the same from 1995. Mm-hmm. And in 1995, it does not state, which I'm being told, that it's 33% or 66% that Calpine pays. It is a percentage depending on the total cost based on the avoidance cost, which was $210,000 in 1995, and that it goes up with a CPI increase every single year. I just said a lot of stuff, and I'm confused. I'm sure you're probably confused as to what the actual numbers are, but I think we need to really figure it out, because my honest opinion is Clear Lake Oaks is going to be paying way more than they should for this agreement. I'm okay with a 1 to 2 year agreement so that we can have that review and then we can go with the full 23 to get to the 25. But without this actual review and discussion, we're approving potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars without really understanding what we're approving. I've been reviewing all of the amendments to the original from 1995 all the way through, with the solar panels installed in Southeast, installed in Middletown, the extension of time, and then the last one. Exhibit 1 is still what leads to the fair share for each area, and I'm not comprehending how we get to where we are with what I'm being told. And so I am open to have egg in my face and being shown that I'm absolutely incorrect. But I have been digging through these things, and I am utterly confused, and I think you should be too. And we have shown that we lack the capability for fiscal responsibility. We have 2 departments with loans. We've seen a presentation that shows that we have misused or lost some funds. I think we need to pay attention to this. This is huge, and the pipeline has to keep going. That's not the conversation. It's how are we sharing the cost, and are we going to have this discussion? We've asked for, in fact, we asked for monthly reports from a couple of departments during our budget, which was a month and a half ago. We wanted monthly budgets. I haven't seen one. So I think we need to take the finances a little bit more seriously than we have, because I'm not seeing it, and it's very upsetting that we keep moving in a direction that I think leads us in the dark, and we're blind. And so I'm happy to approve a small portion today. If you want to do the full 25, I'm going to say no. But to me, I don't see the fair share that Clear Lake Oaks is going to pay. I think they're going to pay more. And please show me that I'm wrong. And again, I don't think anyone should be paying anything more than their fair share.
Would you like me to try and answer some of those questions? So the cost sharing is actually in the agreement that was already approved in November. So how that works is it's all by section, by district. So from Northwest pays all cost associated with the pipeline, the pumping cost, everything to get it to Southeast. And then this agreement here would split any maintenance cost for the pipeline from Clear Lake Oaks to Southeast. Again, Northwest still pays for our pumping cost once it gets to the pipeline. Clear Lake Oaks pays their pumping cost from Clear Lake Oaks over to Southeast, and Northwest pays theirs all the way to Southeast. So when it gets to Southeast, that's when the steam suppliers pick up 2/3 of the cost to pump the effluent to the Golden Flange, where then they pay for all of the cost. Middletown is so close to the Golden Flange, Middletown doesn't have a cost sharing for pumping effluent. So the Southeast District pumps their 1/3 of the effluent, estimated on a total cost of total production of all the effluent coming out of Southeast. 1/3 of that is coming from Southeast directly. They pay their share to the Golden Flange, just like Northwest paid their share to get it to Southeast, and then the stream suppliers pay to pump the rest of that course up to them. So the steam suppliers has picked up a huge cost that was not under the original agreement. This new agreement with the Northwest side, the steam suppliers are giving us $100,000 a year for 25 years with a 3% inflator, which equates to $3.645 million over the 25-year plan. In addition to that, they are picking up all of the LIPS cost that was previously burdened by Southeast. And so that estimated based on prior year numbers over the 25 years is a net increase to the Southeast area of $7.1 million. So together, this is over a $10.7 million increase in cost savings to both Northwest and Southeast. And Clear Lake Oaks is not being burdened with any additional cost than just besides pumping their effluent to Southeast, and then our staff cost, which we are going to share in maintaining the pipeline that we both use to pump the 3.5 miles. Diana, do you want to add anything on your costs?
Thanks, Robin. You pretty much wrapped it up in a nutshell. Our costs, ongoing maintenance, this actually, I understand I'm thankful for his concern for the Clear Lake Oaks ratepayers, but actually, for the last 25 years, we've been solely responsible for all repair and maintenance on that line. So actually, this new agreement helps our ratepayers by cutting down our expenses if there's a big major repair in the future. So, yeah, that's all I really have to offer.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from board? And so, just so the way I'm understanding this is, what we're dealing with here is a maintenance agreement for a 3.5 mile pipeline that Clear Lake Oaks District owns that goes from their plant to Southeast.
Correct, that we both use.
Right, we both use, we pay for our share for the water to go through it. Clear Lake Oaks pays for their share of the water to go through. We're just now agreeing that we're going to pay for things over $10,000. We're going to share maintenance. Was it over 10 grand? I think that's what.
Well, we'll share the staff cost to walk the line and make sure that it's in good working order.
Right.
Exercise valves, all that kind of staff costs. If there's a valve or something that needs to be replaced, we will work collaboratively on that. And anything over $10,000, we'll meet and confer over and then split that equitably.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead. Is there anything else? Yeah, Supervisor Owen.
Yeah. You gave us all the data and the nightmares and consequences if we were to shut down the line for us. That was never on the table. That was never an option, I don't think, in anybody's mind to shut down the line and have to do all the repairs to disperse the effluent in other areas.
I'm sorry, I thought that that was one of the things I was supposed to bring back was
No.
the cost if we didn't do this, so that's why I provided that.
No, that, not to my knowledge, that wasn't asked. I was curious as to what it would cost Clear Lake Oaks if they had to do that. Because, and the only reason why was, as I understood our old contracts, was that we were all, the reason we all helped move the effluent up to the geothermal geysers was because we were having trouble dispersing of it, and our costs were not to exceed what it would cost us each year to disperse of it other ways. So I know that the last time this came before us, we were told that there really wasn't much maintenance at all on those lines, so it didn't cost Clear Lake Oaks much to disperse of the effluent. Because they just had to pump it, that was it, that's what they were paying for. Is their expenses exceeding what it would cost if they had to do it on their own without the pipeline? As far as taking the pipeline out of the mix, that was never our discussion, to my knowledge. I think that would be full. Not only that, we signed a 25-year deal, contract. So, I mean, that was kind of, but I would be curious what it would cost Clear Lake Oaks, only to make sure that it's not costing them more than what it would if they had to disperse of it like the same as you would up in Northwest. Do you understand what I'm asking?
So, so Diana's going to have to weigh in on what it would cost Clear Lake Oaks, but in order for us to disperse it in other ways, that we would have to do all those other improvements. That's
right.
Why
and we understood
provided
that.
those.
That was never on the table as far as I knew. I mean, if so, I totally misread the room. I know it wasn't on my radar. But I am curious because we want to make sure that Clear Lake Oaks is not carrying more of the burden than what they should. What would it cost them if they had to disperse of it other ways? That would have been a good question to ask, because then I can see legitimacy in this. And
Diana, do you want to weigh in on what your cost would be if you weren't using the pipeline versus what you're using the pipeline?
Yeah, we don't have a plan B. We don't have another way. So it cost us millions of dollars to come up with a secondary way of sending our float somewhere. So we don't have the property to reclaim it and resell it to the vineyards, which I would love to do eventually, but that just is not in their near future. So I guess I'm not really understanding the question. Is how much would it cost us if we took that pipeline away? We own that pipeline, and we're going to continue to use that pipeline if we're allowed to pump it over to special districts. If we don't have that pipeline, we don't have a plan B.
What the question was, Diane, was if you had to disperse of it another way without the pipeline, what would it cost you? Obviously, I have already stated that that's not what we're looking to do in any way, shape, or form. We just signed a 25-year contract. That's absurd. What my question is we don't want you to have to pay more than what it would cost you if you had to disperse of it another way, like at Northwest, the way they used to dispose of it. Because that was our agreement with the geysers originally, is that it wasn't going to cost us more than what it cost us to disperse of it through the pipeline. We weren't going to pick up any more costs than that. They had to pick up the rest.
This is definitely the most economical way for us to get rid of our effluent. Like I said, we don't have any other way. So it would cost us millions of dollars to come up with another system. I'm not still really understanding the question. We have that pipeline that was signed 25 years ago to use that pipeline to send to special districts to send to the geysers. Clear Lake Oaks doesn't have a second system. We don't have ponds that would hold it. We don't have a sprinkler system. We don't have anything else but that pipeline. So there, the grant came in 25 years ago. That pipeline was built with the agreement that we would be sending our affluent over to special districts.
And that you would maintain it.
Well, back then, 25 years ago, yeah, we actually kind of got a raw deal back there that we were responsible for maintaining it 100%. We were responsible for pumping it from our place to special districts. Yeah. The special districts, to be honest with you, sends as much affluent through that pipeline as I do.
No, I understand that,
So
but
that's
I think
why the few changes were made. That's why the few changes were made in this current agreement that we're asking for approval for, is that we're just splitting costs of, like Robin said, for our employees and for the monthly inspections and for any major repairs that come along. Because if that pipeline breaks and we can't afford to fix it, it's going to affect special districts too. So working collaboratively, we're sharing the costs, we're sharing the repairs, and we're sharing the responsibility of maintaining it.
yeah, what I'm basically pointing out is that it's cheaper for you to maintain it than it is to have to put something, come up with another solution.
Well, yeah, that's pretty obvious, that it would cost us a lot more to come up with a different solution. Yes.
Okay.
Just
Thank
like
you.
it would cost special districts to cost a lot more for them to come up with a different solution.
All right, Supervisor Sabatier?
Never mind.
Okay. Well, I just want to say, my recollection was the reason that, well, we were asking, it started out, we were asking for cost numbers, but there was statements made about the possibility that we could not be allowed to use that pipeline.
That came from
So
Diane.
that's why all these other numbers, in my opinion, were part of what we discussed last time, because if there was a chance if that pipeline went away tomorrow, we would have to potentially spend 18 million to fix our irrigation. So that was my recollection of why.
Well, that comment, excuse me, Chair, that comment was probably, not the best comment to make that time, but we've been working for over a year with no contract with special districts, yet we've been pumping their affluent. So
Yeah,
if
and
something should happen to that
I
pipeline.
didn't bring that up to criticize it or anything, just to
Oh, okay.
indicate
I
that
kind of
it-
apologize.
because it
for that
was made,
remark at the last meeting.
and so that's why I'm just pointing out that we had to look at full cost numbers if we didn't have a pipeline for some reason at all. So that's all.
Okay.
Anything else? I need to open it to the public.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I think the recommendation to sign an interim contract is probably the best course of action at this time. I did take a look at some of the numbers, but I don't think I have the correct numbers. In fact, I don't think anybody has the correct numbers. And I think we need to get more current numbers. It was mentioned that we're referring to numbers from from last century and using that as a baseline. That obviously is not a good idea. There was a comment made today that, well, Middletown is so close there really doesn't count. Well, my numbers are that it's about 6 miles away from the geysers, and that's a 53-mile system. And I don't know, I don't know if it's right there or where is it. I've tried to I don't know what the map looks like. I think we need to understand.
It's right there.
Well, not just Middletown, but what is the length from Clear Lake to southeast, southeast to Middletown, northwest, where does that connect to southeast? Does it connect straight to the geysers? When I look at it and I look at the volume of effluence, there is the potential that Clear Lake District is probably paying more than they ought to. So I wouldn't recommend going into a 25-year contract. I think, and I haven't seen the numbers. I don't think the layout of the cost, again, financial responsibility, there should be a spreadsheet that comes with this that shows this is the percentage of the line that Clear Lake is responsible for directly. This is the percentage of the line that they're responsible for partially, and what portion of that makes it partial. And yes, I get it that the geysers and other people are now carrying a lot of the cost, but that still leaves a lot of cost for our districts and for our county that needs to be properly allocated and fairly allocated. And I'm sure and again, I mean, the threat of shutting things off, that didn't come from the board, that actually came from Clear Lake. And so I think it's not a debate of whether we should or shouldn't sign, it's whether the numbers add up and that that everybody's paying its fair share. And I don't think just verbally rattling off numbers is the right way to do it if you're going to be fiscally responsible. Put it in a spreadsheet, put it in a table, present it to the board so everyone can be fully informed. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room? Anyone online, Carolyn? No. Okay. I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. Again, my understanding is that this has nothing to do with pumping costs. This is an agreement to maintain the 3.5 miles of line that we're sending all of our Northwest sewer through the Clear Lake Oaks system.
That is correct, and it's a mutual agreement that we can use that 3.5 mile pipeline.
Okay. All right. Did you have something, Supervisor? Okay. All right, then we're ready for.
I'll motion to approve the amendment number 2 between the Lake County Sanitation District, Northwest Wastewater Treatment Plant, and Clear Lake Oaks County Water District for the acceptance of effluent for 25 years.
Second.
I have a motion and a
Mr. Chair,
second.
if
All
I
in
may.
favor? What's that? Go
I may
ahead.
authorize the chair to sign
Oh,
as part of the motion.
And authorize the chair.
okay.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
That will carry 3-2. Thank you. And that concludes that item. Do any supervisors have anything critical they need to report out, or just want to throw that opportunity? Doesn't sound like it, so we're going to pass that. And then I believe we've covered everything except for close. So I'm going to read off the closed session. First item is 8.1, Public Employee Evaluation, titled Community Development Director. Item 8.2, Public Employee Evaluation, titled Special Districts Administrator. Item 8.3, Conference with Legal Counsel, decision whether to initiate litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, one potential case which we're going to remove and we're not going to discuss today, unless that's changed since, correct? I have another one still, but am I wrong on that one?
Yes, for that item, pull to a later.
Still leave it on? Okay. 8.4, Conference with Legal Counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2, E1, one potential case. 8.5, Conference with Legal Counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, FERC proceeding number P77, Potter Valley Hydroelectric Project. And I understand there was going to be a request to pull that, or?
No, I mean, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, please.
So the items requesting to be pulled to a later date by my office would be 8.3 and 8.6.
8.3 and 8.6?
Yes.
Okay, so 8.5 remains. 8.6, I'll read that off. Conference with Legal Counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Rojas and others versus Clearview AI Incorporated and others. And that one is the one that you request to pull for a future date. Okay, is there any members of the public who wish to comment on the titles of any of these items? Nothing in the room, nothing online. Then we're going to go ahead and conclude our open session, and we will wait for partial shutdown or full? Full shutdown. How many minutes? 5 minutes? 15. We'll be in recess until we're shut down for closed session.